Hey, I don't actually know if anybody is going to be able to get into spaces because there's so many spaces going on now, and the spaces are rugging. So I don't actually know if people are going to go into them. But I said I would start one, and I am going to try. Hey guys, come on up, hang out if nothing else. But I did want to talk about this just from a free speech angle, just because so many people are like, these people are killing free speech, and I don't know if you guys know that that the suspect was caught, by the way. Um, so, which is another interesting thing, I guess. But I really wanted to talk about this more. Like all these spaces are so aggressive, I guess. And I was kind of looking out on other apps also to kind of see what's going on out there and see, like, is like, Blue Sky and whatever, and see whether or not there's uh that whether or not it's is there what's the narrative look like from the other perspective. What's interesting is there's not much. Like if you look at Blue Sky, for example, there isn't a ton going on. There's not much being mentioned even, which is kind of a strange thing, right? When there's someone who's a significant political figure, you would expect that all news channels would report them, but for some reason, it's not really a major issue um, that's being mentioned. For example, on Blue Sky, which I kind of think is a little bit that seems a little bit odd. I respect, that some people it doesn't really enter their sphere, but we really are creatures of bubbles, which I think is um, you know, kind of the most important thing, I think, that we have to recognize that we're more we're like things are more um, a reflection of the algorithms that we're part of than general news, because if you look at, for example, like both sides of news stories, right? If you look at both conservative and liberal news sources, both news sources actually have news stories that are out regarding Charlie Kirk. So I think it's important to remember that what you're reading in social media is really not a reflection of what, quote unquote, mainstream media wants you to know. It's really more a reflection of what your algorithm is telling you, like what social media you've bought into. So just kind of keep that in mind, that we're more a product of our social media than we are, a product of mainstream media or otherwise. So I mean, that's one of the things that I noticed, because I've been checking out all the different news sources, and it really does depend more on um, what your algorithm is feeding you, how much information you're actually getting, and what kind of information you're getting, and how inflammatory that information is. And then the number of people who don't understand what free speech is shocking, particularly since those people are in the government. I mean, one of the things I'm about to talk about is um, in my next Substack, I'm going to talk about some issues that I saw that Ryder Ripps has just done some posts and stuff, and how he didn't even understand a lot of the issues that he was famous for. He still doesn't understand a lot of the issues. Like, he doesn't understand NFTs at all. For anyone who remembers that he was famous for ripping off the uh, the Bored Apes, um, where he made money on them and then he ripped them off, and it became a court case and all this other stuff. And he just sold his last one, and I'm going to be talking about that in a in a post One of the things that I think is really interesting is that when you read the posts that he's done, you realize, or at least I did, how little he really understands about NFTs in general and intellectual property. And it's just shocking, right? I was like, damn, you know very, very little about this stuff. It's the same thing with free speech, right? I'm shocked when I hear people who work not just in the government, but government adjacent, um, who are throwing out terms like free speech and have so little understanding of what free speech really is. And they're very inflammatory with their language. So I wanted to talk about what free speech is, and then I really wanted to talk about how close the left and the right really are, because I feel like I'm an outsider. Um, and if the left and right really saw how close you are, you would understand, kind of from an outsider perspective, how manipulated you are, right? On both sides. It's very manipulated because it's really essentially a dialogue about how one group sees very few opportunities. Both groups see that there are um, uh, some people who are not getting access to opportunities. One group says there are an immense number of opportunities. We need to open them up to everybody. And let's start with the people who traditionally have not had access. The other group says, I don't have access to opportunities, and that's because other people are taking my opportunities, right? So one group sees opportunity scarcity, and the other group is seeing opportunity that's unlimited, but starting with a group that has traditionally experienced scarcity, like the most scarcity in terms of access. We're not talking about limitations in opportunity. We're talking about limitations in access to opportunity, right? And really, the difference is one says there's scarcity in opportunity, period, and these people are taking the opportunity that's available, and that's not fair. And I need that opportunity. That's what it's unfair that I'm not getting that. And the other one is, instead of saying, I see that you want opportunity and are not getting it, um, what they hear is, you're racist, you're sexist, I can't talk to you. You don't understand how the world works. There's a lot of opportunity. We're just giving it to these people first. The people who think that there is limited opportunity say, I see that there's limited opportunity. You don't hear what I'm saying because you don't see the world that I see. I see that there's so little opportunity, and any opportunity that's available, you're just giving away to people that aren't me. And I can't get that opportunity. I don't care what happened in the past. Right now, I can't feed my kids. What are you planning on doing about that? Right? That is, you already got opportunity. I don't have any right now, and I don't see the ability to get any. And you're not giving me the access that I need in order to get opportunity. So it's a difference in seeing whether or not there's a scarce world, and it's a difference in language. And it's so frustrating because really what it is like this unwillingness to discuss past a point of like there's this massive distaste from both sides in the way that each side expresses itself. And it seems like for the most fervent on each side, neither one is willing to get past that sense of distaste, right? I hate the way you express yourself. It doesn't sound anything like me. It expresses all the worst things in my world. I hate that so much. I don't even want to listen to you anymore. And the other side says, you express all the worst things. I can't listen to you at all. And so they scream at each other instead of saying, okay, I'm going to get past the thing that I think sounds distasteful to the thing that I understand might be true. You're experiencing a scarcity in access to opportunity. I recognize that's the problem. I recognize that's the problem too. Oh my God, we think identically. It's a fucking identical problem that is recognized on both sides. You need to come together to figure out, how can we figure out a reasonable order for access? It's an on-ramping issue. That's really what it is. But because of the way that that both sides speak, it's so distasteful, and you can understand one side has a visceral dislike for the people who are getting access to opportunity that they can't seem to get a handle on. And you can understand that the other side has a visceral dislike for people who have a visceral dislike for people that they've never even met, right? You can understand how both sides feel that way. But if you can't get past that visceral dislike feeling, you never get anywhere, because truly both sides feel the exact same way about the same thing. Probably it's just like how you can't get along with like Uncle Edmund in at Christmas, right? Why do you guys fight so damn much? Because you're so similar. You fight so much because you're so similar. And I think that's why this gets so contentious. It's like, Tinder on fire all the time, because you're so similar all the time. I'm like, you guys are actually saying the same thing with different words, but the problem is those words are like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, right? And so no one's listening. But it's one thing to be so, like aggressive with, that person just keeps telling me I look fat in these jeans. I can't talk to a person who all that they say is, you look fat in those jeans. You look fat in those jeans. I don't know what to say. But it's one thing to not like a person because they keep saying that. But on the other hand, you cannot kill somebody for saying that, right? It's, I understand that you don't like somebody or agree with somebody because of what they say. You can say, like, look, I understand you have your perspective, and your perspective comes from a place that you've lived, but your perspective is disrespectful to me. I don't like it. It's hard for me to hear. So we need to find a way to communicate where the disrespectful part of your language doesn't interfere with my ability to hear you. That's what we need to do. We have to find a middle ground language so that we can do that. That's literally the point of political correctness. For everybody who hates it so much, the whole point is to be able to find a middle ground of communication so that people can communicate without offending one another so much there's no ability to hear. It's not that before political correctness, people weren't offended. They were offended. They were just unable to say anything, but they were still not listening, right? They still had no interest in communicating with you or having discussions with you or telling you what was going on. The point of having some middle ground of communication where certain topics or certain words really can't be said is so that you avoid upbraiding the other person so much that they can't hear what you're saying, because that happens to all of us. Those buttons that your siblings push, that your parents push, whatever, those are just words that get trigger us so that we no longer hear anything. We're brought to like some childhood place where we're like, I don't want to listen to this anymore. I have to run, I have to eat chocolate, I have to go do something else. That happens to all of us. So we look for neutral words so that we can have conversations without reverting to our inner 6-year-old, right? That's what we're trying to do, is have conversations that are least likely to make the other person revert to their inner 6-year-old, where they no longer can hear what the hell you have to say. And usually the thing is, what the other person has to say, even if you don't agree, is likely valid and will improve your position and your perspective just by hearing it, right? Just by hearing someone else's perspective, your perspective has improved in terms of its depth and has improved in terms of its clarity. It's good to hear this stuff. But we're very reluctant to hear when someone insults us. And that's what the whole purpose of the PC movement was, is let's be able to have conversations without unintentionally insulting and offending and abrading one another. And that's kind of what we need to go back to. Not because the PC movement is like, let's not offend anybody or whatever, but the truth is we do unintentionally offend one another all the time, and that interferes with our ability to communicate with each other. It is really hard to communicate with another person, because remember, when you're talking to someone else, you have to communicate and remember that they're hearing you filtered through all of their experiences. And you're not responsible for whatever their experiences are, but you are responsible for trying to make sure that your common sense is a filter for what you say, that you're not trying to you don't get to say whatever it is that you want in the common marketplace, just like you can't do whatever it is that you want in the common marketplace. Your ability to act ends at the freedom of someone else to be free from harm, right? You're not allowed to just harm people, and that includes harming people with your words. And that is how we move into free speech, right? Go ahead, Zach.
I'm a strong proponent of free speech, not just domestically, but around the world. But I'm also a staunch critic of hate speech because people get hurt that way. So energizing and fanning the flames of hate in general typically does come with a lot of negative connotations. It's the reason why, back in the day, governors, senators, congressmen used to be able to walk out in their constituencies and wave and kiss babies and things and so on and so forth. Now they can't even do that without a security detail. It's a sign of dissent that the alignments have definitely shifted. And I genuinely believe that people are not necessarily arguing with their Uncle Phil on the other side of the table. I think they're arguing with the establishment and how they feel that they're not being heard or represented. I think there's a disenfranchisement as a global issue. There's a disconnect between what you think you're paying for and what you're getting, respectfully. And what happened today was tragic, and I agree with you that violence is never the solution. So, yeah.
I agree with you. Certainly that people, the most anger comes from not feeling heard. I would say that the most ambition comes from a concern, a fear, a terror of your life being spent not being seen, and the most anger comes from not being heard. And I think that there is this existential crisis of people, right? We have the most people that we've ever had in the history of the world. It is harder than it's ever been in the history of man to become known. Right? Think about how hard it was to become known in Elizabethan England, when there are a fraction of the humans in the world than there are right now, right? When it takes, like, how many fewer people there were to become one person who changes history, significantly easier when there are significantly fewer people, right? There are a lot of people in the world. There are more people in the world than there ever have been. There's also more distraction than there ever has been. And I think that part of that is the reason why there is more frustration than there ever has been. We have never felt so unseen and unheard. And I think that clutter, that crowded feeling, that feeling that we may live and die and no one will ever have known that we were here, that is an existential terror that is solely human. That is a human thing, that is not American. It is not Asian. It is not European. It is global, and it is human, and it is terrifying. It is terrifying. And that is something that I think is adding to this desperation for some sort of notoriety. If you can't get fame, you can get notoriety, right? If I'm never going to be famous, if no one's ever going to know who I am, if I'm never going to do anything good, well, then I might as well do something really terrible and people will at least know I was here. And that is actually the mindset of a number of well known killers. That is a sad statement on humanity. That there's such desperation to be known to many that you would harm people in order to do it. You'd rather be known as a killer than unknown. And that's something that I think humans need to work through, of this feeling of lost in a crowd, right? Are we all like in New York, surrounded by people and seen by none? And that I think is something that is fundamentally terrifying. And I think terrifying also in terms of this, this opportunity issue, right? On each side. This is the fear is I'm never going to be given an opportunity because no one ever is going to see me. No one will ever notice me. If I can't be rich, if I can't be famous, then my life means nothing. And I think that there are a lot of people who feel that way. And that is, first of all, not true. I think it's very hard because the American ethos teaches us the opposite, right? Work hard, you'll become known in your field, become get a certain status. Status means a lot, right? We're also creatures that are wired to social status. Status means something. Social status means a lot. There are people who are very famous and very poor, and between fame and money, they choose fame because they don't want to die alone. They don't want to die unknown. And I think that that's something that people need to consider. What is the price of your fame? What are you seeking really? Do you want a bunch of strangers to know who you are? Why? Why is it important for people to know who you are? Why is it important to have that? What is the goal? And there is something like that. There is this drive, this demand. There is the promise, right? There is a promise that a lot of people who are, I don't want to say thought leaders, but they are influencers. And one of the things that they bring people with them, right? That they promise is that do what I do, follow me, and you too will have people following you. Why and for what purpose? What are these followers for? What does that make you?
I think a lot of that has to do with the divorce rate climbing from the 70s to the 90s, the highest of all time. 50-50 is a bit of a gamble, and it led to a bunch of people not having a paternal leading father relationship, and they're looking for leadership, unfortunately. That led to a bunch of beta males and looking for these aspiring voices that had larger audiences and other people following other people. Most of it's bottom account, so go back to you.
I mean, that's interesting. And then you would say, well, if being seen is a result of divorce, or for whatever reason you don't have, for example, you've been raised by a single mother, well, then why is there so much hate for the Black community where the majority of the Black male population has been locked up? Why is there hate for that? Why is there not understanding for that?
I think there
Right?
is understanding within the educated, but the indoctrinated don't believe anything other than what they're told. The
That
mass
is another
incarceration
entire
of our minority
problem.
groups is heavily documented, as well as the ghettos that were designed by management.
I mean, that is a whole other issue,
Right.
right?
I would believe undereducation of the indoctrinated. It led people to believe that they aren't of privilege or means.
And here, then this is another issue. And this is something that is, I think, a big problem. And I want to get to what free speech is, because one of the things that has been shouted out so much about the Charlie Kirk thing, and I hear this every time something happens, is, the left is against free speech. This is an attack on free speech. Just because you don't like it, it's free speech. None of that is what free speech is. I just want to go quickly into what is free speech. Let's talk about that first. Free speech, first of all, is not all speech, and it has nothing to do with private individuals. Free speech is a block on government in being able to take sides or prevent people from speaking publicly about various topics, right? It's basically it's rules that prevent the government from stopping people from protesting against the government or other various things. That is what free speech is about. Free speech is the ability to protest against the government and the government can't do anything about it, or the ability to protest anything for or against any particular cause that you want. The government can't take sides. The government has to lay out clear rules in time, place, and manner in which you can have a march, have a sit-in, whatever it is that you want to do, and if the other side wants to do the same thing, then it has to apply the same rules to the other side. It can't favor one side or the other, and it can't prevent you merely because of content, right? That is free speech. Free speech is not, I can say whatever I want, when I want, to whom I want, and I don't have any consequences. That is being an asshole. And there's never in the history of man been an I'm allowed to be an asshole rule. There's never been that rule. You always have consequences for being an asshole. There is a rule about that, right? It's try that again. Right?
I
That
believe the
the
young people go with FOFO.
Yeah, exactly. That is the truth. There is not a rule allowing you to say what you want, when you want, to whom you want, and have no consequences. That is not permissible. It never has been. All speech is not free and never has been. It was never intended to be free. It never has been free. There are all sorts of limitations on speech for public citizens, for private citizens. There's all sorts of limitations. People who say, I can say what I want, that's free speech, or you can't stop me from saying crap about you, and that's free speech, they don't know what they're talking about. You have to tell them, shut up, you're being an idiot. Please talk to a lawyer who understands free speech. That is not free speech. That's not free speech. There is no right to say whatever you want, whenever you want, to whom you want, and have no consequences. There's nothing like that. So the whole idea of I want a platform of free speech, even this platform has nothing to do with free speech, and there is no ability to say what you want to whomever you want.
That's where it started at. That's why they let them buy it, so it'd go away. Cancel
No,
culture is getting expensive, hundreds of
it's
billions of dollars in
never been
lawsuits.
that.
Yeah,
In fact, there's more censorship now than there was when Jack Dorsey controlled it.
that was my point.
There's tons of censorship, right? And even Alex Finn publishes here are all the things that can get you deboosted. That's a form of censorship. If you say this, if you do this, if you do this, you'll get deboosted, right? All of that stuff. But that's the right of the platform. None of that has to do anything with free speech because this is not a government platform. Ken, go ahead.
Yeah, I think just to clarify what you're saying is that the government doesn't have the power constitutionally to limit your speech, except within very, 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 very limited scenarios. But on the individual level or even on the commercial level, in those domains, whoever controls that domain controls the speech in that domain.
Yeah, you could place all sorts of limitations on things. You can say you can't swear in here. You can say you are not allowed to wear graphic T-shirts in here. You can say you're not allowed to. That's why private company, you don't want to support a particular cause or something like that. You're allowed to, right? I mean, there was that whole thing with Hobby Lobby, who didn't want to support, who didn't want to support what is it, the chicken place that doesn't support gay rights, and then there's Hobby Lobby that didn't want to support Planned Parenthood. You can support whatever you want, and you don't have to support whatever you don't want. You're a private company, right? There's some issues where if a customer comes in and wants you to support something, you have this whole issue of, well, are you discriminating? And there are some obligations under the 14th Amendment where companies that hold themselves out to the public are still are held out. They still have the same obligations as the government not to violate the 14th Amendment, so equal protection, right? So they still have equal protection obligations. But barring that, you're still free to choose whatever cause you want to support. That's not what the government, that the free speech rights and obligations fall on the government. They don't fall on the private sector. You can't demand free speech from private citizens, right? That's not what that's about. And shooting somebody is certainly not free speech, right? Shooting somebody does not grant you some free speech. And college campuses have the right to preclude people from speaking on their campus. There are a lot of people who demand, college campus, you must allow someone to speak there. Well, there are the instances where there have been some contention is when they are a publicly funded campus. But when they are a fully private school, there's very little to stand on, right? When they're a private school, there's very little you can do about being able to say, look, you want someone to speak there? Okay, you want someone off of that campus? There's not much we can do about it. So, it's really publicly funded ones that are the only ones that you get through federal dollars, because there have been, this is the case law that involves things like, the intramural sports. They get that through the public funding and all of that. That's the line of cases that they end up saying, well, you can't exclude people, you're brought in because of the federal dollars. So anyway, you guys don't care about that stuff, but that really is kind of the only exception. And it's really important to be clear that your ability, there is a difference between insults, right, which have always been permitted. You can insult somebody, and a lot of that is just opinion, but they are free to retaliate, right? Just because you say something, you're allowed to say something to somebody, but they're still allowed to retaliate, right? Doesn't mean, hey, free speech, I get to say what I want. They get to retaliate. And if you've done something tortious, they're allowed to sue you, right? Free speech, that's not free speech issue. This is where people get confused, right? If you insult someone and it rises to the level of a tort, or you offend someone and it rises to the level of a tort, which is a civil offense, you are not protected by free speech. You've done something that they can sue over. If you've defamed someone, they can sue over it. Defamation happens all the time on this app, and I don't know why people don't sue, right? But you can sue over it. And it's something that I see this stuff, and people say, well, it's free speech, I get to say it. No, that person is not a government agent acting on behalf of the government. So you're not protected from a government action. You acted against a private citizen. Okay, you said something. that person is entitled to react to what you did. So don't claim that you get a defense against it. If you said something and you provoked something, then that person is entitled to react. And if that person ends up hitting you, it's possible that they may have a defense because of what you said. That's possible. You may try to sue and they may have an affirmative defense because of what you said. Words are not a full defense. There are things that are called fighting words. Those things are not defensible. Those things are not even defensible from the government.
Wait, that's like a real thing?
That's a real thing. Fighting words
I
are a
thought
real
it was just
thing.
like a colloquialism. Them some fighting
No,
words.
no, that's a real
No?
thing.
Oh shit, go ahead.
Brian, go ahead.
Well, then that would almost give a person in the crowd just that didn't like what he was saying could take his words as offensive, and those are fighting words. I mean, that
No,
they
no,
could,
no. That
right?
they're not arbitrary. They're not arbitrary.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh. Well, in any case, with the freedom of speech, and I know there's no freedom of reach. I mean, the idea is you can't yell fire in a crowd at that, but the matter is of public health and safety, and public matters. So, with the right of freedom of speech, we have the right to freely hear all things, and that's been crippled from us, especially the right to hear public matters which involve all of us or any of us, and the things that he was bringing to light. So they robbed the person from us in this case. So the right to freely hear, that being taken away, especially from the character that he was and the position that he had, especially the influence that he had over such as the youth, or common talking points, just being able to give people a ground to stand on for their speech, and targeting people like that has really taken precedence because of what we need to hear, the need to hear things of public matter, especially of public health and safety, which they have crippled us the same way that you would consider our speech crippled. We have the right to freedom of speech, but that we don't have the right to freedom of speech, right? And not freedom of reach in that case. So then we don't have the right to actually hear all things, right? So I hear that a lot. So those things can be
How are you
harmful to
saying
us.
that we
We
don't
need
have
to,
the right to hear everything? How is that right inhibited?
well,
Because he
there
was
are.
killed or because of something else?
Well, no, but I'm just saying, like the development plans, for instance, concerning areas. I mean, we're not exactly privy to those anymore. There was a time when we were privy to such things, the public matters, when things were changing, right? So he's talking about a lot about things that are changing and how to better uh, fight back against these persuasive gestures that people have been giving through the campuses and universities, etc. So the development plans for the changes through the schools and the changes in towns, the way the development of a town grows or whatever, but all of those influences lie in the same places. And I feel like this assassination, if you could call it that, is an attempt to not just silence that, but they have, in some respect, almost a manner to control public health and safety as to not let people get too loud either when they become too much of an influence. So he had a big target painted on him. We all knew that. Many of us do. Ben Shapiro, any of them that decide to go to these campuses now are a target because they're targeting the youth. And like these platforms, I'm going to stop here. I'm sorry, I didn't want to be long-winded, but just like these platforms, Meta was targeted. They went under investigation for the chatbots having persuasive influences, romantic influences of children or the youth in that manner. So targeting the youth has become a big thing to stop people like him from speaking to them about how to defend theirself with speech is becoming a tool.
So, I mean, that's not new, right? I mean, that's always been a thing that, it's always, um, you know, revolutions come from the educated poor generally, right? That's why they come from universities. Disaffected university students tend to lead uprisings, and there's always been this movement to suppress the university students. Has anybody seen Les Mis? Les Miserables, the play, and it was a book by Victor Hugo. But that is all from the university students, right? So it's a very old thing to worry about the students who have enough knowledge and youth and energy, but don't have families and responsibilities. They're the ones that foment upheaval. And that has been true, in the 60s. It was a huge thing, right? And that's where, there was the whole thing with, Nixon wanting to essentially get the FBI and all these other people that were, get them, infiltrate them into the students and see what was going on there, because they were doing horrible things and break up the students and things like that. That's always been a thing. That's always been an issue. Um, so uh can people hear whatever they want to hear? Of course not. There are limitations based
Right.
on national
His
security.
show,
There's limitations based on
his show
access.
was huge,
Well, yeah, I mean, there's always, and there's
right?
never been an absolute right to hear whatever you want to hear. There's a right to hear, first of all, whatever you have privilege to hear. There's a right to hear whatever you have vicinity to hear. And there is a right to hear whatever someone is willing to give you access or information to hear. So, really, when you think about it, most people don't have much opportunity to hear much, which is one of the reasons I even started doing anything on social audio, was because most people didn't know anything about what it's really like to do a startup, right? That's how I started on Clubhouse when it was, a thing back in the beginning, because someone asked me to join because I had exited companies. And so they're like, can you tell us how to, run a startup and found a company or whatever? And I was like, okay, sure. And because nobody talks about what it's really like to do it. There's all these platitudes and people who haven't actually done it but want to talk about it. And then I talked about blockchain because a lot of people didn't know anything about it and they didn't know anything about regulation. And I was talking about that. There's not a lot of people that will give access to information, like real access to real information. Most people won't. And that is the truth. That is why there's a knowledge gap. Most people won't talk about finance. That's why I do, because most people won't. They won't tell you like what a bond market is and how it works and how it controls most of, the government and the world, right? Most people don't talk about that stuff. um, that is why you don't have a pure right to hear whatever it is that you want to hear. Most people don't even know who to listen to because we are terrible at judging expertise. Terrible. Look at who the leaders are just on X. Look at who has the most listeners. I mean, yeah, there are lots of bots. Lots of bots. Oh my God. Lots of bots. Look for Shirley Io. That's a huge farm, a bot farm, by the way. But there are lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of bots on X. But look at it, generally speaking, right? Look at who's huge on X. Are these people who have, lived expertise and are offering you knowledge? Not really, right? They're marketing geniuses and influencers who are, who are really good at convincing people that they have knowledge and expertise. We're bad at picking experts. So the people that we choose to listen to are not necessarily the people that are giving us the information that we want and need. We're listening to people that make information available to us, but we're not necessarily selecting for the best criteria. So, we have issues in terms of the information that's offered to us because there are a lot of people that have great information but have zero interest in sharing it with people, right? They love having information gate kept. And that is like 99% of the information that's really quality out there is gate kept. It's they just don't want to share it. Why? Because I don't know, honestly. I really don't understand the mindset. There, it's not like anyone's going to execute for you. I'm not really sure what information hoarding does for people, but they love to do it. So that's what they do. um and then for the people who are sharing information, I'm going to say honestly, a lot of the people that I know who are the best at whatever it is that they're doing and are trying to share information, most of them aren't recognized as like with huge followings, right? They're not necessarily everybody's hanging on their word as like a huge following of somebody who's got great things to say. They're people who are followed by influencers, but they aren't necessarily as influential themselves in terms of numbers. So it is what it is. So on one hand, it's yes, your access. The other part is you have to make your choices on what you're going to listen to. You have to choose who you're going to listen to. And you have to listen to people who don't just echo your own thought. One of the things that I was saying early on is that I checked out the other apps. Like I looked at Blue Sky and Threads and stuff like that, and there's shockingly little on Charlie Kirk, right? So it's a huge dominant topic here, and there's almost nothing on the other apps. And there is an equal amount on mainstream media, whether you're liberal or conservative. What does this tell me? It really tells me that if you're looking at social audio and or social media in general, and I know a lot of people tend to get most of their news from there, the news that you're getting and the information you're getting is really dependent on the algorithm. And you are subject to your algorithm so much more than you know. So much more than you know. You live in a bubble. You have no idea what else is out there. The people who live on Blue Sky have no idea what's going on in the world on X. The people who live on X have no idea what's going on in the greater world on Blue Sky or other apps. The people who live on any particular app don't have any idea what's happening in the larger context. And whoever you're looking at on X, you still don't have any idea of what's in the larger context, even on the app that you're on. You're still not seeing the rest of it because the algorithm is feeding you. It is forcing you to live in your bubble. You have to get out of it because you're not seeing enough of other opinions. So you have to look at mainstream media. You have to look at as many outside sources as possible. I look at 7 to 12 for every single news story I talk about, every single one, because otherwise I don't have enough information. I do not rely on social media. And I know a lot of people do, and they're like, oh, this is where all the news is. It's not. It's not. It's so algorithm driven that if I relied on it totally, I would never get enough information. I would get entirely one side of any topic and I would miss entire topics, right? I would never get a full picture. I'd get someone else's idea of a full picture. And that's insufficient for me to make decisions that have predictable results. I'd wonder why whatever I made a decision, especially investment decisions, I'd wonder why they kept coming out wrong. Am I a bad guesser? Am I not estimating correctly? What keeps happening? And what keeps happening is that I'm not using factual information. I'm not using solid ground. I need solid ground. When you're making decisions, you need solid ground underneath you. And that's why you need to combine it with other information sources. You have to combine your information sources. You can't rely on one, on anyone. You have to combine all of them. So, I mean, I was looking at all these other ones and I was like, this is really crazy, you know? You can't see any of this stuff. You're not looking at any of what's major news in these other news outlets. They're talking about, like, a Supreme Court decision regarding transgender bathrooms and things like that. Like, these are completely different bubbles, right? It's a completely different world. And it's almost like they don't even intersect, and that's not good. Because how can we have a conversation that's meaningful to both of us if we don't even understand which topics are important, right? We're not even reading the same newspaper, much less on the same page. So that's just please, please, just keep your news sources as open as possible. And read both sides, because you don't know what information you're going to get. Don't read the other side with a suspicious nature.
It reminds me of when there's a crime investigation that they have to ask as many people as possible because the brain makes up the rest, and they only show you a fraction of the picture.
It's all that Kirk Kurosawa movie, Ron.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
all I always think of. Did you see that movie? Do you know that movie?
No, I know the reference though.
Oh yeah, so it's a great movie. For those of you who haven't seen it, it's this movie where there's an incident that takes place, and then there's all these different perspectives. I don't want to ruin it for anybody because you guys should see it. It's a great movie. But it's basically all these different people's perspectives of what happened. So you don't get to know what happened, like the actual thing that happened. You just see it from everyone's perspective of what happened. And it's just so interesting how, uh, you know you think you understand an event, but you see how the event is so different. The motivations are so different when you see it from someone else's viewpoint. So, anyway, it really gives you an idea of how important it is to keep your mind open and look at things from someone else's viewpoint. I try to keep my mind extremely open and look at things from different viewpoints so that I get a really good idea. I assume that when a journalist is writing something, they're not writing vindictively, right? Opinion pieces aside. Generally speaking, when reporters are writing something, especially when they're on the hook for liability, they're not writing something vindictively, they're writing something objectively. They're trying to get information out. And what they're writing is what they see. So even when I'm getting different views from different writers, I see these people maybe talk to different sources or whatever, but together I can piece together some idea of what actually happened. I get a better idea of what actually happened. I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on this. Have you guys been looking in the other spaces, or been talking about that? I mean, do you guys have any feelings about this, or?
Yeah, I have a lot of international traders I trade with every day, and they came up with the usual narratives. Oh, Americans have a gun problem. Oh, Americans need to get rid of guns. Like, that's all just the normal basic stuff you get. And then, they get a lot of, it was just mixed narratives. It wasn't actually an originating thought, which I appreciate originating thought. You know that more than anybody. I don't know. I, I, I was very disappointed with the responses. It's very, cliche brush it off. They call it up to like gun violence and stuff like that. I'm like, that's not what's happening here. Violence is never a solution. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we stab people too, man. Come on, don't forget that. Like, we do a lot of other stuff to people. We don't just shoot them.
No, I know. I had
We
that
do other
conversation with our
stuff.
counterparts in London. I'm like, you guys are very stabby. No, you don't get to talk. Yeah.
Hey, Puck, what's up?
Oh, hey, what's up? Hey, that was quick. Yeah, Americans do not have a gun problem. I just want to say that. We don't have a gun problem. That's not the problem.
What do you
Um,
think is our primary problem?
DuPont.
What did you
What?
say?
wait, who is we?
Me or him?
No, no. Well, Puck, but either one of you. What do you think is
DuPont.
our primary problem? I was going to ask Puck first, but if you want to go, then fine. But
DuPont. DuPont owns the patent for Kevlar. That's all.
I mean, honestly, I cried. That was really sad, man. I'm really sorry about that shit. Like, it's totally fucked up. I think I don't know any of the details. I don't know any of why that happened. Um, but it's definitely not a gun problem. Absolutely not. It's There's no way that it's a gun problem. In America, we have guns. Because yeah, I don't know. I'll just leave it there. I don't know. We have guns, man, and that's not the problem. If you choose to shoot somebody, you have like some sort of intention, or you have some sort of motive or motivation, or some sort of narrative that you're gonna push, and that's that's what happened today. I mean, they took the dude out. They smoked him, and it's totally fucked up, man. This shit really made me like it was sad. It really was, and
I mean, I
someone
agree. He's 31 years old. He doesn't even have like kids or anything. Like, can you imagine his parents? I have kids. I there isn't an age where you're like, okay, I'm ready for my kid to die. Like, it's just, I can't even imagine what they're feeling. There's no age. There's no age where it's okay for your kid to die. Period. Your kids must outlive you. And that I can't even imagine. They're so proud of their kid who's doing well, and then suddenly, and I don't agree with him, but I don't agree with like many people at all, right? I agree with like nobody, generally speaking. So I don't take that as like a sign of anything. I just am like, I think that this is appalling. But I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. What America has is a rage problem. We have a feeling of isolation, like individual isolation, a loneliness, a lack of community. So, one of the things that keeps people in check is feeling like somebody is watching them, not watching them in a big brother sort of sense, although I guess that would keep people in check, but watching them as in looking out for them. When people feel like they have community, that keeps people in check. One, because of reputation, but the other, because someone has their back, right? So when communities are more involved, more on top of each other, more like, uh, does your mother know where you are? Because I'm gonna talk to your mother in about an hour. So I see you running down this street. Where are you going? Because I'm gonna go see your mom like right now. Do I need to tell her where you are running down this street? Like when communities are more like that, kids tend to get into less trouble because there's a lot of people looking out for them, right? This tends to be something where people feel connected or tied to something. They have a stake in society, right? There are people there that give them a stake in society. However, I think the fact that there are so many people who have no stake in society, which is what in China they have this problem called the broken branches, which I've talked about before. It is partly a result of the one child policy. There were so many boys and not enough girls. And so there were all these boys that did not have a spouse or anyone. And then they were running around forming gangs, right? Because they couldn't get that foothold
so
in
Alex,
society.
do you
Yeah.
remember when like we used to be able to go out and like ride our bikes and like we wouldn't come home till dinner time or like somebody whistled? I
Yeah.
remember.
That's a different, that is before, I talked about this also. This is before news became part of the budgeted process for broadcasters, right? This is another thing where people weren't scared, right? Parents weren't scared. Parents became scared because of ratings that were required for news. And that was because after the Fair Communications Act happened with, under Reagan, and then federal funding was cut for news, but news still had to exist. It became part of the broadcasting budget, and in order for people, they had to now compete for viewers. And in order to do that, that's when the whole saying, "If it bleeds, it leads." That's when that
Infotainment.
started. What?
Infotainment.
Right. Well, that's when local news started. And local news only happened, right? We used to only have national news, and local news was really something that was just about weather and traffic. And then the only other thing that they used to have there was like local, like sports teams and things like that. But local news then became about crime. The crime reports became the most popular part of local news, because it pulled in viewers. And that was important because it became a part of the budget. Then local news was leading the evening, what do you call them? The evening programming, right? So since local news had to bring evening programming, it became part of that. Well, how do we make the advertisers happy for the evening? We need our lead in to bring in viewers so that our big paying advertisers will pay for those prime slots. So that's where they started all of the drama, the trauma stuff, and that's why when Aton Potts was kidnapped in New York. So ordinarily, if there was a kidnapping, right now, your like a child's likelihood of being kidnapped is not actually any higher than it was in like 1950, right? It's minute, but it seems extremely high because when Aton Potts was kidnapped, ordinarily that would be like a local news thing, but because everybody now had to pay for make viewers happen, it became national news, and people saw that it brought in huge amounts of viewers. So that was a kid who was kidnapped from his New York home in like the 2 blocks. He was 6 years old and he was kidnapped in the 2 blocks between his house and his school. And it terrified parents, and it changed the behavior of parents. They no longer let their kids walk to school by themselves. They no longer let them play by themselves after school, between school and home, between school and when parents got home, and things like that. And so every time there was anything like a kidnapping or a murder or something like that, what used to be a local event now became a national event. So it looked like there were murders and kidnappings constantly, and that was the end of playground time and outdoor play. And as a result, the millennials were the first generation that did not have consistent outdoor playtime that was unsupervised. What happened there? They did not form friendships that were unsupervised. They did not learn the number one thing that Gen X and above learned, which is conflict resolution. Conflict resolution happens on playgrounds. It doesn't happen in school, it doesn't happen with supervision. It happens on playgrounds. Why? Kids want to play on the same thing, with limited resources, and they can't get into fights every day. They have to figure out how to get along and not kill each other every day. And that is how conflict resolution starts. That is how people start facing bad things happening, right? I don't want to deal with something bad happening. I'm going to have to, because I'm going to have to play at this playground every damn day. My mom is going to send me here every day. My dad is going to send me here every day. I'm going to have to see this joker every damn day. He always wants to play in the jungle gym. I want to play in the jungle gym. He climbs on my foot every day. I'm going to have to tell him, stop climbing on my foot, right? Or I'm going to have to hit him in the eye. One of the two things is going to have to happen. If he doesn't stop climbing on my foot, I got to hit him in the eye. One of the two things is going to happen, right? So I got to figure this out. That is how kids figure out how to confront things that are not going well. So that stopped. Millennials stopped learning how to confront bad things happening and how to solve conflicts. That is when ghosting started. And that is when conflict resolution stopped. There are now teachers in classrooms that don't know how to solve conflicts. Parents don't know how to solve conflicts, right? They don't know how to resolve conflicts between their own children. They don't know how to solve conflicts between parents and themselves. So people will just disappear or change schools. Can you believe this? Change schools rather than resolve conflict. So now we have several generations of people who have grown up not knowing how to resolve conflict and only knowing how to direct some sort of anger towards someone when it is anonymized, not in any sort of direct manner. They can only resolve conflict when it is anonymous on things like, discussion posts, or anonymously in spaces or things like that. They do not know how to direct any sort of dislike or any sort of issue that they have with someone to their face. They don't know how to address an issue with someone to their face and maintain the relationship afterwards. They don't know how to do that. This is why I think we have this buildup of anger, because people don't know how to let their frustration and anger out. They don't know how to resolve conflict. I think we have a bunch of fucking angry people, and people don't know how to resolve conflict other than ghosting or getting so furious and then running away and never being seen again or trying to change their identity. I think that's literally what happens. So I think that it's literally people don't know how to resolve issues, and we're just so angry, and we can't even tell what that anger is from. And it literally might be just this snowball of anger that started in like second grade when someone was mean to you and you had no idea how to respond to that, and it's just built up, and now you're like 35 years old and you're like just a packet of rage, right? You're just like, it's built up and you've just got no way of dealing with it. So you're just like mad. And all you know how to do is sit and play video games, and you don't know how to like direct irritation towards someone calmly and say, I don't think this is a great way for you to handle this, or maybe we can find another way to deal with this. Hey, I'm glad we talked about this. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Right? Like we don't like people don't know how to do that. And I think that's fucking us up. And I don't think it's just Americans. I think it's like everybody in the West, because we all got hit with the same thing at the same time and we all got fucked up by it. Go ahead, Derweiss.
Oh, so I just wanted to very quickly and respectfully add a counterpoint. When I was in middle school and we lived at Fort Belvoir, we actually dug in a defensible pillbox position that had overwatch over the Potomac. So like not everybody's lost. Like there's a couple of us who are still here. And that was fucking middle school. That being said though, I was a small child. I learned about copperheads later on. That was a fun one. But yeah.
Good for
Anyway,
you. But
hello everyone.
were you a military kid?
Oh yeah, fucking army brat.
Oh, well, I mean, that's different, right? I mean, military kids are kind of a different breed, right? I mean,
Well,
you
I'm just
all have to
saying.
learn how to deal with a bunch of stuff like immediately, right?
I mean, like when you're brought up and your dad is 82nd Airborne Division field artillery, you learn very fucking quick. Where his job is to jump out of a plane, plant a fucking artillery piece, and yeet a bunch of fuck you off to the enemy. It's like, yeah, like God, I love my dad. Such like. Anyway, continue.
Oh, that's so sweet. That was just really sweet. But okay, I know a bunch of military kids, and they're all kind of similar in the way that it was like, well, look, we all grew up in this environment where we moved a lot. We picked up, we moved, we got settled, went to school with a bunch of other kids who picked up and moved a lot. We kind of adjusted very quickly. We knew what we had to get done. We did it. Like everybody's very sort of straightforward, get it done, and it was sort of a, well, you got to do it, you got to make that work. like
L-
you got to make it
l-
work. They're very sort of like make it work. So that's, I guess, the personality I think of as like the military kid is sort of make it work. It's a make it work sort of thing.
I've actually done the Myers-Briggs, or the Myers-Briggs, or whatever the fuck it's called. Yeah, I'm INTJ.
What is that? I don't even know what they are. I mean, I
Uh,
know
the
what the test is, but I don't know what
yeah.
the different things are.
So like the INTJ, like I'd actually have to look back at the definition, but like I'm very assertive and I'm relatively intelligent. So like I've just been writing that my entire life. I'm also incredibly handy and I can build a house from the bottom up. The concrete work, like I'm definitely gonna bring some guys on, but like everything else, I got that. Electrical, fucking plumbing. Sorry, I'm not trying to flex. I'm just
No, I think it's
yeah.
awesome. I mean, it's a very, you know, I think it's a good ethic.
But do you
I
hold Cardano?
What kind of
Totally.
retard would hold card? Or
Good
sorry,
answer.
hold
Good
on.
answer. Good answer.
Yeah, like how? All right. So, quick question to the host. How vulgar am I allowed to be?
Pretty vulgar. I'm
Okay,
I mean, I
fuck
just said
yeah.
Cardano. I
Let's
set the
fucking
limit,
go.
didn't I?
You're allowed to say Cardano.
That's
No,
pretty much
I'm
the
kidding.
limit.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Pretty high.
No, you're allowed to be pretty. I mean, we're pretty loose in here.
I mean, honestly, y'all
Speak for
should
yourself.
market dump.
Just
Like,
kidding.
if y'all actually have holdings of that shit, just fucking like market dump it right now straight into BTC.
I'm in a group of traders that travel, like 200 of us around the world. We all trade together, and the guys keep thinking they're geniuses getting longs on Cardano. I'm like, you need to stop. Please just stop. I'm out.
I make
Well,
no comment one way or the other.
you can only
Okay, but
guide
you
the
definitely
retarded.
hold ETH because of the name. You had some ETH at some point.
I Okay, I do have ETH. Of course
Thank
I
you.
do. Of course I do.
It's going to 12,000, by the way. I know you can't talk about price, but yeah.
I don't talk about it, but
It is. I
of
already
course
know.
I hold ETH.
Double from the top is 8,000. A premium on that's 12. It's going to go to 12. It's fine.
There are problems with ETH breaking out totally. I have to say that, it might break out in price just because, there's a lot behind it right now. Like there's a lot of momentum behind it, and the ETFs that are behind it are urging breakout. But remember that there's always like a tether on it that's pulling it down, in terms of
It,
the fact that it's a
it's
functional
yeah.
token. So that's one of the things that always brings it back down. So there's a reason why it has always traded within a band. Right now it's pushing and breaking out, but there's a reason. Like, you always have to remember the basic rules of each token, and remember, like, if there's something atypical that's happening, is there a reason, anything that has changed the functional rules of that token. So anyway, that's just my.
Alex, do you think anybody cares about Cardano?
There are definitely people that care about Cardano. Charles cares about Cardano. There's a lot of people that care about
He
Cardano.
literally went to South America to put his
Makes one
hands in
person.
things and make ants bite his hands so he didn't have to build.
Okay, I'm going to tell you, like,
Ooh,
something
good
that
job.
I did, and I'm going to say, like, this is kind of marked me a little. So a friend of mine encouraged me to put something on card. So okay, I had this idea of trying to put together this class that you guys may have heard about a while ago. That I was going to. I have this fantasy of filling the world with accredited investors because fuck you, SEC. So, just because I hate that rule so much. And if you can't, like, if they're not going to break it, right? My whole idea is constantly like, let's get around it, let's get around it, right? So there's this test. It's hard. It's a hard test. But I thought, okay, there's a hard test, but I can do a class and I can get people to pass that test. I'm good at teaching shit. So I could get people to pass that test. And in the process, they'd be broker dealers. So, like, yay, like all around, like it was like a win, right? But I need money for it. So I was like, okay, well, here's what I'll do. I'll try and apply for some grants. And so this friend of mine who's on Cardano, he's like, okay, they're doing these funding rounds for this thing called Catalyst. And I was like, all right, he's like, I put together an application, let's put it on, whatever. Took us freaking 3 days to do. I know, I saw that. I saw it. It took us 3 days to try and just put in the application for Catalyst, and I could never even do it. And I even DM'd Charles. I know Charles. I was like, I can't fucking put in an application for Catalyst, and the thing that I would do would put a bunch of accredited investors into Cardano. That's a good thing, right? So, but I couldn't figure out how to do it. So I was like, fuck this, we're not doing it. So I tried. But I was like, 3 days. 3 days I tried to do this thing. I'm like, I'm not this dumb. But it kept like rebooting back to the beginning, and I had to keep doing it, and I had to keep setting up seed phrases and stuff. And I was like, I can't. I just literally, I was like, I'm gonna break my computer if I have to keep doing this. So I gave up.
Can I see you a Cardano and raise you a Sui?
I like Sui. You don't like Sui
I
anymore?
love Sui. I'm saying,
Oh,
can
I
we
love
get you to
I
do
like
the same
Sui.
project on Sui?
Oh, well, but if they're giving me money, I would. But
Okay, we could probably get to something in the foundation. You want me to connect?
yeah, please.
Cool.
I do it I do it there.
Cool.
I'm like, I'll bring you accredited investors. How is that bad? Why don't you all want this? Anyway, I think it's a good project. But anyway, Dur, go ahead.
So I'm gonna hold my tongue a little bit, but just saying, Bitcoin Maxi. Um, yeah, there is no reason to buy into any of these fucking shitcoins. Yeah, you might be able to write it really quick if you're close with the founders, but like, let's be honest here. Like, the average person's gonna get fucked, and that's the fucking exit liquidity. So,
Yeah, but
well,
don't you need to be an accredited investor to gain net worth and net wealth.
yeah, and what does that say about investing? Where instead you could just buy Bitcoin instead. It's like, oh yeah, I have to be an accredited government rubber stamped fucking investor versus like me just buying Bitcoin. So like I'm not trying to put you on a fucking hot seat or anything like that.
No, I
So let's be
appreciate
clear
that. I
here.
mean,
Yeah.
I know a lot of Bitcoin maxis. I am also a stock investor. And I believe in diversity. I don't put my money all into anything because I don't trust anything. So, I have a wide array of things, including Bitcoin, but but I firmly believe that, like, I have a path, and I published it before, actually, and I put it in a course, and a bunch of people downloaded it but didn't listen to it, even though it was free, of how to build generational wealth and all the steps to it, which is now 8 figures, by the way. It's 8 figures to build generational wealth. But so this one of the steps has to be like that, like one of the it's like a bottleneck that people hit is the accredited investor level. And so I was like, ooh, we can shortcut that if we do this. I'll just make a bunch of people an accredited investor, even if you don't have the money. Now you can do this, and then because you need that to be a wealth builder. But anyway, it's a dream. Hopefully at some point I'll be able to do that. But for most people,
I just
it's,
ping them both. We'll see what they say.
yeah.
The
I mean, just let me
foundation direct.
know.
The
I don't
foundation
know.
directly.
I'm not like not holding my breath on anything at this point, but
Well, I put it out there. It happened. How about that?
yay. Um
I'm,
oh,
I'm that.
here,
I'm
let
that
me
guy.
actually put a post out there of some level of my here. Where's my latest, hold on. My latest what do you call it? My latest Substack I posted somewhere that I had a here. I think it's a reply. I think, I'm not sure. My latest Substack
I said, when you
here.
get a moment, is there someone Alex can contact about onboarding a grant or a project to bring on accredited investors building on SUI? Yeah? Cool.
That'd be great. Oh,
I reached
here's
out to the
a.
foundation directly. We'll see what they say. I'm
Oh,
also
that'd
going
be
to give you.
awesome.
I'm going to give you 2 people to follow so they can contact you when the time's right.
Awesome.
Yep.
Hey, did my post didn't it didn't go to the top, did it? Do you see it? Here. I don't know if you
There
can
it
see
is.
it. Oh, it is? Okay, good. And then here is my next space that's coming up. And for my Tuesday space. So just FYI, while we're here, I'm doing a giveaway for my Tuesday space, which is a subscription to Peter Yang's Substack. I love Peter Yang. He talks a lot about how to build these AI these different tools, which is great if you're a creator or anything you're trying to build. He's just got these great tools, and for my my topic that my next economics and market space on Tuesday, I'm going to give away at least one subscription to Peter Yang's Substack. So worth it. He gives you the tool so you can like plug it in and start using it. It's so good. And then for the next subscriber space, which is going to be on Friday, I'm just going to do a 5 ways to make money in crypto. Someone actually asked for it. I was like, okay, I'll do that. So 5 ways to make money in crypto right now. And they're legal. So I'm just going to do that for anyone that's a subscriber that's interested, before the subscriber program actually just dies, which it probably will, because I don't know, I can't reduce my price. I don't have any control over that. The next is, look at my what do you call it? My Substack. I do most of my analysis there, and it is thedamskerreport.substack.com. That I most recent one is I have a video that is the latest SEC rules that are important. A lot of crypto stuff is coming, so you can see what's coming and what's going to be important to you. So just take a look. But I'm going to be doing a lot more ones that are free. I'm trying to transcribe some of my spaces and put them in there. But give me a minute, because my spaces are like they were kind of long. So the transcription is not accurate. So I have to actually go through them, which is kind of a pain in the ass. But anyway, that's all.
So why do you keep showing like these other products when like Bitcoin is obviously like the thing that we need? Like it's our money. It's like
Because it's 600
no, we
gigabytes.
are
That's less than a 2 terabyte movie. You can't fit shit on there. I'm out.
there. You can be out, but like we are living through. You can be out. I don't care. We are living through the one time only, one way only accumulation phase of Bitcoin. So like, why are you like pushing all these like other products?
I'm not pushing any products. I don't push anything. I never tell any people
You
what to
just
do.
did. Just push like a
You
bunch of
totally
products.
shielded me Cardano now, Alex.
Did I really just show you
No.
Cardano? Isn't everybody
You
just,
just told us it
rushing
didn't
out to
work.
do that?
I don't care
After
about
my horrible experience trying to onboard?
That's
I
the
couldn't
only
even
experience anyone's
onboard. Are
had.
you
It's
kidding
kind of good,
me?
I guess.
I couldn't even onboard. I tried so hard.
Oh my
yeah,
god.
Um,
Alex, you spoke very well today, like earlier. That's why I found you. You spoke very well.
Thank
And
you.
yeah,
So
it
for
was
real though,
good.
Alex, do you hold ETH?
No, no. Hey, keep fucking talking.
You're cutting
Hey,
out,
Alex,
Puck.
what?
You're cutting out. We can't hear you.
Oh, damn it.
Yeah, you might have to drop and come back, because it's kind of sketchy. I'm not sure if it's the
I'm certain.
space or.
I'm certain you hold Bitcoin and ETH. I know. I know you better than that, Alex.
Yeah, I do.
See,
I do.
you
I
caught
don't
Sui on the
talk about
bottom,
my
didn't you?
bags at all, and I don't tell anybody what to invest in.
Of course.
But I'm not pitching anything to anybody. I don't know why anybody thinks I am. I've
Nah,
never done that.
you're good.
So, nah, I don't do that. I just try and explain to people like what stuff is more than anything else. But apparently that is not what people want. What people want is to be told what to do. And I don't like to do that. All I try to do is just help people understand stuff so that whatever you do is informed. That's all I want you to do, is to be informed. But apparently that's not sufficient. So anyway, I'm just, the only reason I'm doing the 5 ways thing is because someone asked for it. And also, I'm an author in DeFi and finance, so might as well help with that. But there you go. That's just because I'm just responding to what else is going on. But the truth is that most of my subscribers don't show up for my spaces anyway. So if they don't show, then it won't happen. But people do show up for my Tuesday economics and market space, which is great, because I talk about everything law, regulation, and economics, and news, and anything that affects the stock, crypto, and bond markets. And I don't assume you have financial knowledge ahead of time. I'm not, look, I assume you're very good at whatever it is that you do in life, but maybe not this. And that is the reason why I am explaining it to you. But I'm just trying to make sure that you understand it so that you can operate in it, because you must. You have no choice. You must be an asset holder. That is why I talk about finance. I cannot believe the number of people in blockchain who don't understand finance. Blockchain is one of the most complicated technologies. People who don't understand how complicated blockchain is are operating without fully understanding how blockchain works and how it integrates with other technologies. You have to understand finance and the technology and economics and history and the psychology of people and groups. That is a lot more than you have to understand with traditional technologies. It is an extremely complex technology. When you add into it how it's going to interact with AI and quantum computing, both of which I also work in, you have a mix of things that is incredibly powerful, but also incredibly complicated. And if you don't have like the framework in your brain for how these things go together, then first of all, it's not going to make a lot of sense. And the second is you can't take advantage of it. You can't take advantage of it as a technology, and you can't take advantage of it financially. You can't make use of it as an asset. And when people say the economy is doing well or poorly, they don't mean the economy as in all citizens, including all the workers. What they mean is all the asset holders. You have to hold assets in society in order to take part in the economy. It doesn't matter anymore if you're just taking a paycheck. You can't retire on a paycheck mathematically. You just can't. You are making a third of what you would if the pay rate had kept up with inflation. You cannot retire on salary alone. You have to have an investment plan. And the only way you can really do that is if you understand finance. And that is why I'm explaining it. Because if you don't have that knowledge, and why would you? You're expected to get it from your parents. And if you weren't born with parents who understand finance and teach you how to think like somebody who has money, then this is the only way you're probably going to get it. So that's why I teach you this stuff. But a lot of people don't really, I guess, maybe they don't know that it's important or they don't want the information, but they don't see that it's extremely valuable. But you have to understand this stuff. The people who understand the numbers win the game. That is every single deal, every single thing you go through, from groceries to buying a car to buying a house to to getting your paycheck, to everything. The person who understands the numbers wins. If you want to be able to retire ever, if you want to be able to afford your life, if you want to be able to not worry, you must understand finance. That's why I talk about it. That's it. Hey, Puck, what did you want to talk about? Oh, sorry, Zach, go ahead first.
I was just gonna say, do you think that's why there's been a war on good education, and that's where the preparatory schools and the private schools started to dominate with their individual styles of teaching? There's a couple different methods that they use specifically, strategically. I genuinely think there's been a war on higher education, and there's been a separation of access. I don't think it's necessarily like the Ivy League kind of conversation. I mean, even from earlier on, I'm in the California school system, so it's a little bit different. But it was definitely classicism then. They were giving us job placement tests, psych evals when we were like fourth grade or fifth grade. So they were trying to tell everybody what they were and who they are going to be and who they are based on their personality types, what jobs would be best suited for them. But also treating people that way going forward. So I can't see that that would be productive for financial literacy and financial education. I mean, you don't really find out about taxes or interest rates well until you're well into college. I mean, maybe if you're lucky, senior years of high school, but it's really hard to motivate for workforce if you're taking 85% of their salary every week. It's just educating people on that you only get 15% of your pay with inflation, and then with taxation and overtaxation on all the goods you purchase. So you'd be told that to a bunch of kids, it'd be really hard to get them in the workforce. So respectfully, or take high interest loans.
It's not actually even that. I mean, they talk to kids about, so it's basically how you think about money is taught to you by the person who teaches you how to brush your teeth. Most people think about money in terms of income. They don't think about money in terms of cash flow. Cash flow is the difference between the wealthy and the poor. And I did a whole space a while ago on the difference between rich person thinking and poor person thinking. And you would be surprised. I don't know if you personally, right? But you generally would be surprised at how common it is for most people, especially middle class people, to think like poor people. Middle class and poor people thinking is very different than rich people thinking. Middle class thinking is actually quite different than poor people thinking, even. But rich people thinking is very different. And even understanding the phrase, you have to spend money to make money, is misunderstood. Understanding where money needs to be spent is misunderstood. Understanding even like how to purchase things, where tax benefits are, things like that. Like they're not thinking about income tax the way you're thinking about income tax. The rage over income tax is not the issue, right? Um, that's not the thing that keeps rich people up at night, because there are so many ways around it for rich people. Um, it's a very different sort of mindset. The problem is most people are spending money in a non-recoverable way. Rich people are spending money recoverably in a way that comes back to them. And that is a very, very different mindset. What do schools do? Schools are networking. That is a very different mindset, right, than schools as institutions to teach you bureaucracy so that you can function as a worker. Schools, so I had my child in a wealthy private school, when my oldest, because I'm in LA. Now, I'm going to admit the only reason I did that was because my knowledge of private schools was basically like movies and like Gilmore Girls. I didn't understand what private schools really were like. I was in a private school for a short period of time when I was young. I didn't really understand what this was going to be like as a parent. And I will tell you, it's not about education. It is absolutely about parents networking and kids networking, and they network their asses off all the way up. And then it's about getting into additional schools where networking is done, and then getting into those Ivy Leagues, et cetera, where more networking is done. School is a ground for networking. It is not about education. They're not building their resume, right? They're building a groundwork for either enterprise or investment or something like that. It's a very different groundwork than, the groundwork of uh, middle class and lower class schools, which are just about the grind and state testing and things like that, right? We ended up in another school, which was much more about hardcore education, because that's what I want to focus on for my kids and what my kids like. But there's still a hefty amount of networking that's going on in that school, and that is just something that happens with school. So the nature of school is very different. The knowledge gap is huge. Why isn't finance taught in most schools? Because that would give everybody an even footing. It doesn't mean that everyone would succeed equally, no, but it would give everybody an equal chance of success, right? That is not what we want to happen. There was a period of time when finance was taught in schools. It is no longer taught in schools. Finance is taught in my kids' school, in grade school. They learn about finance. They have to. It's a credit course that they're required to take in personal finance for a year. And my kid already knew it, ha ha ha, before they took it. And it's a very interesting course, because that course was actually based on personal finance, but they have the opportunity to also learn about investment finance. That is the course that most kids need to take, and that's the course that they're missing. And that is something that would make the difference between wealth and poverty. And that is something that needs to be instituted, but isn't. So is there a gap of knowledge that is deliberate? Of course. Are there teachers who'd be able to teach something about it? Probably, right? Teachers generally, though, aren't wealthy. Do they have the mindset to be able to teach this kind of information if they had a proper curriculum? Are they likely to have a curriculum? No. What kind of curriculum would they have? What they had was home economics. What is that? Budgeting. Budgeting is a middle and lower class finance course. What do they need? That's how to restrict spending. Real finance is increasing revenue. That's a very, very different set of knowledge. That's what I try to give people, right? But it's a very different set of knowledge. So the difference between the rich and the poor is vast. The difference between the kids of the wealthy and the poor is enormous. The way they think about the world, the people, and money, assets, things in it, extremely different. Just extremely different. And if you think about how easy it is for well educated, right? Not kids who are just slugs, right? Who don't do anything, but the kids who have been taught by their parents how to make money. For those kids to make money, it is like water, right? It's like finding water in like a freshwater lagoon. It's so easy for them. Why? Because they learned it like brushing their teeth. It's so easy. It comes to them naturally because they were taught it from birth. They see every opportunity and they are conditioned to take advantage of it. It's a very, very different thing. So I've talked about it before. Maybe I'll talk about it again if there's interest, but it's a fascinating thing. Fascinating.
I think you're totally correct. I mean, like they don't offer any of that. Apparently, you have some sort of education system for your kids that will teach this thing, but like that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. The the public school system today, as best as I can tell it, they don't teach any of this. They do not want you to balance a checkbook. They don't want that at all. I don't know how we got off a big one, by the way. Um, but you're right. They, they don't. You're right. You're right on like many many things. So that's it.
That's always a good place to end it for me, right? But I mean, it's true. So we used to have this course in public schools called home economics, which was about making budgets, shopping, things like that, and that was about how to balance checkbooks and things like that. And there were also courses that were vocational, that were shop and things like that in most schools, and those were cut under Bush 2 in place of No Child Left Behind. That was the whole teach to the test thing, et cetera. And that's a huge change. And that was, in my opinion, right, a huge tragedy because the idea that everyone is suited for college is just false, right? College was never something that was like everybody is suited for this sort of liberal arts education or a higher level, science education. That's just not the nature of humans, right? There are a bunch of people who need to be in vocational education and go into trades. Right now, we have not nearly enough people who are in skilled trades. We couldn't even build the number of like, for example, like we need people who do like the clean room manufacturing. So like
People to
building
put,
AI chips.
we need
Sorry,
people to, yeah, sorry, I'm gonna interrupt. We need people to put in pipes.
we
Half
need
the
exactly. We need lots of trades. We need skilled trades. There's not enough people to do that. One of the reasons that Taiwan leads clean room manufacturing is that they never stopped doing manufacturing and they built new skill levels in manufacturing, right? So we have no ability, like there's the number of people that we have that could do clean room manufacturing is like, it would feel like maybe not even a classroom. The number of people they have would fill like endless football fields, right? So we are not the people to do manufacturing, especially for the high end, highly technical, highly skilled manufacturing that we need for things like AI chips and things like that. We don't have the people that can do it. So we need other people to build this stuff because we don't have the knowledge to do it. It's ridiculous to think that for whatever reason, we have people now who can design them, but we don't have people who can actually build it because we don't have the training for people to learn how to do this stuff, right? And we're just going to eventually either we're going to farm it out or eventually we're just going to start waiting until we have robots that are like fine enough that can do this type of work. We don't have that yet, right? That's a very, 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 very fine skill that we just don't have that level of technology yet. But so we're either going to just wait it out, or we're just going to ship it off to other countries, which is possible, right? But that's the whole idea, though, that everybody is going to go to college, which again, we don't even make that opportunity available to people because we say, okay, no trades, but now we're going to put the price of college at a ridiculous amount. And we're going to say everybody has to go. So we're going to let anybody in who can pay. That's basically just saying, poor people, you can't get a job. Like that doesn't really help anybody, does it? So this system wasn't well thought out.
yeah,
Uh,
here
it's a whole other issue.
trading though, the trades aren't like something that like can be like exported. Like you need people to actually do the physical work. I mean, like somebody needs to step into the future of skilled trades and skilled trades education.
Okay,
And
hear me out. They move here and we pay them good money.
That's actually the plan right now, is they're trying to import people who are literally going to fix our toilets.
So,
We're right now we don't have enough people. For example, the biggest issue we have right now, like there are so many different problems, but one of the issues we have is the incredible shortage of elevator repair people, right?
and
Elevator and
electricians, we have a buddy who
escalator.
does it back east. He says they're paying 3 times as much per hour.
Oh my, it's terrible. Elevator and escalator people. Now there's
who's
a
gonna
bunch of
carry their
people.
ass to the 22nd floor? Like who's gonna do that?
It's insane. It's crazy that there's not people to do it, but they have in like in South Korea, there's a ton of people that actually do that repair. So they're actually talking about bringing people to the US to do, and there's an H-1B waiting for people to do this. But there's the question of, do they want to come, right? But to do elevator repair work, because we literally just don't train people to do that anymore. So there's not even like a high school program to do that. Now in Germany, when there was a shortage of engineering people, Siemens went to the middle school and started setting up programs to interest the middle schoolers in engineering. So they just got them excited about like engineering stuff and STEM and stuff like that. And then when they got to high school, they started setting up high school programs and stuff so that they started getting them interested in things like that. That's really what needs to happen, is to get kids interested again in the trades. What they need to do is start getting the trades integrated into middle school programs and high school, which is what they used to do. And then there used to be programs where in the middle and high school, you could basically take a an elective and then if you got enough credits, you could go into an apprenticeship program with a union after high school. And so a lot of kids didn't go to college, they just went into an apprenticeship with a union and a trade. But that was all killed in No Child Left Behind.
They
So
left all the children behind.
they left all the kids behind. All those kids got left behind. So
I feel left behind.
um it's such a mess. It's such a mess. It's just the idea that people are like homogenous is just so weird, you know? Like you should look and say, okay, what skills are present here in this school, in this community, in this, county, in this whatever. Like what's the need here in this area? And then how do we foment that? What programs do we need
There
here?
was
Why shove everybody into one program?
There was 3 ROP programs at my high school. One of them was janitorial. The other one was mechanic, and I think the final one was military. So you could do the military ROP, army. I think we had army. I think it was army. Yeah, it was army. We didn't have marines. The other school had the marines, and all 3 of them were on job training program classes for like 2 classes a day, and like those people just went and did those jobs after high school. So pretty cool.
Yeah, did you know, by the way, that you can't even go into the JAG Corps, which is the law corps, for even the Air Force, which is like the most lenient of all of them. You are not allowed to go into the JAG Corps if you have allergies and asthma, because they can't guarantee that you won't be in a place where you can't breathe. I
Oh,
got booted.
wow, you were going for the area.
Yeah, my
Wait,
asthma
hold
was
up.
too
The
bad.
JAG is the most lenient? I have a good.
No, the jack to get no,
For
they're
Alex.
like
For
they
Alex was
require the lowest like physical like it's the lowest physical requirements, right? For the Air Force and then the JAG, right? Because I'm not a doctor, I'm a lawyer. So I post law school, I got recruited by a few of the JAG corps. And so I was like, okay, Air Force, it's like baby training camp or whatever. And then it was like the law group is like, it's not anything physical, right? But then they still do like this physical test or whatever, and they're like, your asthma's too bad. I was like, am I supposed to run? Like, what do I have to do? Like I'm a lawyer, right? I'm not, I have enough breath to practice law. And
You
they're
got
like,
me
no, but
laughing right now. I got some good buddies who went into
but
JAG. So I should go out there and be like, hey, that was like, you
Oh,
aren't,
Alex is a
you, you
has
are,
no,
an
they were
allergy. You
like,
leave her
but
alone.
no, because I have a really bad allergy to mildew and mold. And they're like, well, some
I
of
have
our
an allergy to root
bases.
people.
Yeah. Well, no, they were like, well, some of our bases have mildew and mold, and I was like, but I thought you guys cleaned them.
Wow.
They're like, no. And I mean, they're clean, but what if happens if you encounter mildew and mold? And I was like, well, I can't breathe. I end up in the
Papa Claritin.
hospital. And they were like, you can't be here.
Wow.
I got booted. Oh
all
my
right, don't boot me, don't boot me. We went from JAG to Cardano to, what are we talking about right now? What happened to like,
Oh, no,
what
so
the,
Free
this was the school
speech.
system thing. So the other thing in the school system though, the other thing in the schools, the interesting thing for the oh God, I just lost my train of thought about the school system. There was something else I wanted to say about the
RLP programs.
oh, um the other thing with the trade programs that they had, and by the way, those trade programs were really good, is that so the other problem that they have now, with sorry, not the trade programs, the other problem that they have now with the people who are all going to college is that there are now too many graduates in college and in graduate school, right? So they're not market responsive anymore. They used to adjust the number of applicants to the job market, but they don't do that anymore. So now you have the MBA grads who are baristas, and you have all of these graduates who are, not able to be employed anywhere because there's just no jobs for them. And now you have, the angry, educated poor. And that is the beginning of, civil
say it again,
unrest.
say it again.
What, the angry, educated poor?
There we go. I love it.
Yeah, that's the beginning of of civil unrest. That's what happens. So that's, I mean, that is what happened, and over again in history. That's why people need to study history more. Over and over and over again in history, this is what keeps happening. So people need to like study where the triggers are, because this is a significant trigger. So I keep seeing these posts and stuff like that on all different types of social media, of these very angry people who are like, I have this degree, I have this graduate degree, and I can't get a job, and it's X number of years since graduation, and now I can't get in. Right now, there's no path for me to get in. It's been so long. I might have to go back and get a higher graduate degree because there's no path forward for me to get in. That is not that is not going to lead to civil and economic stability, right? That is a problem, and that is one of the signs, right, of economic and civil instability. It's just a common thing that ends up happening, and so um, I just look
Obligatory
for
Simpsons tag up top, by the way.
what? I'm sorry.
The Simpsons have been making that joke for 25 years. It's up top.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it's so that's the thing, is that if they actually had these other pathways for things that people needed, there'd be fewer graduates, and then, they'd be more competitive with jobs and things like that. It's just, one of those things that, the people did not think of the consequences. And I look at this over and over again, and I look at the consequences of what's happened. Like, I look at the Genius Act and think of the consequences of that bill, and I'm like, that's the dumbest bill ever. And I look at, so many
Hey,
times I look
speak
at
more
this.
about that. What do you think the implications of the Genius Act are?
That's the dumbest bill. There's a reason why Tether and Circle don't qualify, for example. Um,
What?
they don't qualify because they're not backed according to the methods that the bill requires them to be backed, right? They can only be backed by cash alternatives, and 7-day treasuries. The biggest issue there is that, of course, Circle and Tether tried to do that initially, and they can't because it's too expensive. And eventually, what happens? I mean, Tether stopped doing that at 3%. And then they ended up doing things like longer term negotiable paper and debt. And then what they ended up doing now is like crypto. And of course, we only have attestations. We don't even have like, audits that we can actually see what's in there. But what's going to happen with these stable coins, and it's laughable to think they want to go to like 100 billion or whatever it is. But if they want to expand the size of these stable coins, there's no way they can do it just with these 7-day treasuries and gain any size. They're either going to have to change the law, or they're going to break, and then they're going to cheat, right? And that is going to suck. So either way, this is going to end up in some disaster, and I'm not looking forward to that. The other thing is, why do they want these stable coins to exist at all? Why do banks like these stable coins, period?
House
They
money.
like, because they don't have to pay interest on it. They don't like they don't use they're not using these stable coins in trade themselves. They're using these tokens that represent deposits, right? Because those are fully backed. They're not going to use these stable coins in trade. The stable coins are beneficial to the banks entirely because they don't have to pay you any interest on it. So they keep all their profits in when they use stable coins. Of course, they like the stable coins. The entire bill, start to finish, is a bank protectionist bill. And if you listen to people who talk about what happened when it was written, it's written as a bank protectionist bill. Of course it is. You can see that the crypto companies, like anything that's designed by the community, that's designed outside of credit unions and banks, is far stricter than anything that's designed by banks and credit unions. So, I mean, and what's happening? Well, we have basically a bunch of people who are in the blockchain community who are moving into bank territory. And some of them are trying to form trusts and things like that. But what's happening is that they want to be more like banks. They don't want to stay within the blockchain community. And they think that if they turn into banks, then suddenly they'll be able to do this kind of thing. But what they're going to find is that as they become banks, they're going to have to operate within the bank world. And they're not going to be able to do the things that they do within the blockchain community and be a bank. They can't do that, right? It's not the same thing. It's you're not going to be able to live in the DeFi world and be a bank. It doesn't work that way. That's why I came up with this product that I'll probably just publish a white paper on that circumvents banks entirely. But you can't be in a bank. Banks are like antithetical to working in this DeFi space. It doesn't work that way. So the whole thing is essentially just about protecting banks and delivering something that's called crypto, but is really just a dollar derivative. It doesn't do anything to promote alternatives to dollars, which we need to protect the dollar. I
Do we,
mean, we need to have an alternative.
do we know why they're all bidding on Hyperliquid's US dollar?
Hyperliquid has, as far as I know,
I showed
the
up
only
obligatory
thing
ad that VanEck just now added staking to Hype. They want to add an ETF for staking for Hype. Just went out about 40 minutes ago.
everybody's loving, I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
Everybody's loving Hyperliquid. I take that as a bad sign personally. I'm not super thrilled with Hyperliquid. And there was, what was it that was the dollar on there? And Hyperliquid, what they like is that Hyperliquid's doing its own dollar derivative instead of
Got it.
what was the dollar. So a bunch of
It's like
people were,
USDH, and all these companies are trying to
yeah,
bid on getting it.
a
I don't know
bunch of
why they're bidding
companies
on it
have
though.
been bidding to be the dollar
Oh,
on
okay.
there. And
What does that
what
even mean
was
though?
it that was,
I'm very wise, you know that, but I don't understand what that means. Like you stable, like circle,
no,
or
they
like what?
basically serve as like how Binance has
BUSD,
its
and then
own
they got
stable
busted.
coin.
Then FUSD, right? FUSD, whatever.
So yeah, well, so here's what happened with that. So Binance was operating its stable coin, which was a whole issue, by the way, when they converted to Tether. That's a separate discussion. So Binance was operating a stable coin, but it didn't actually operate the stable coin. Paxos did, right? What they did wrong is that Paxos was supposed to be operating it, but really they gave all the control back to Binance. That's not right, right? So Paxos, if Paxos is the operator of the stablecoin, they should have all the control and restrictions. But Binance wasn't didn't have the control and restrictions on it to be able to operate the stablecoin. And they were basically playing with the stablecoin. The biggest issue that they had with the tether thing is that they took all the tether. Everybody who had tether, when they opened up their stable coin, they basically took everyone's tether and converted it into the Binance dollar, right? The Binance stable coin, whatever it was, BUSD or whatever it was. But um, that doesn't work, right? Because Tether was supposed to be worth $1, right? And they didn't put $1 into Binance. They just converted, like if you had a Tether, then you had a BUSD. But it doesn't work that way, right? You should cash out Tether, put $1 into BUSD, and then get a BUSD. But you can't just convert from one to one because they didn't transfer the dollar into the BUSD. Just if that makes sense. It was like it was evaporated. So you just had BUSD that had suddenly all these people on it, but it didn't have an equal amount of dollars behind it. It was like vapor. So that was a problem. And Paxos was supposed to be operating all of that, but it was Binance who was actually in control. Anyway, so
So they
Paxos is,
flipped BUSD, and then they went to FDUSD, which is a different company.
yeah, beyond that, I'm like, that's all messed up.
Okay.
But anyway, so with the Hyperliquid, I'm now looking at, so there was one company that had its main stable coin on there, and I can't remember who it was, and everybody is very excited to get that one off and have um have Hyperliquid have its own run by one of these companies, and they're all major companies that are fighting, like Circle and Tether
Yeah, I've
and
been seeing the
whatever.
bids go out all morning, and I was like, "What the hell are these guys doing?"
Right, they're all fighting to run Hyperliquid's thing.
Got
Now,
it.
Hyperliquid has been offering, as far as I know, huge returns on things, but
90%. They offered
why?
90%
How?
APY.
Do we know where all that money comes from? Because here's what I know about Hyperliquid. Hyperliquid has been part of some of these things, like Justin Sun trying to liquidate the shares. You know what I mean? God, what am I? The last thing, the world finance shares and stuff like that, like these crazy
World Liberty
amounts,
Fi.
these World Liberty Fi, right? Um, they A lot of these crazy liquidation things that don't sound legal, right? Happen on Hyperliquid, and there's a lot of payment schemes that I'm not exactly sure how is that liquidation happening? Who's funding that? Where is it coming from? Right? Like those returns don't come
Yeah.
from nothing. So it's not
What
like
the crap is Hyperliquid? What are you talking
it's a
about?
DeFi
It's
thing,
like a
and so,
Uniswap, but they actually have a perp dex.
but I'm trying to figure out, like,
Think
they're not
Coinbase, but on
investing in
chain.
like mortgages or something,
Huh?
right? Like nobody's actually going out
No,
and
no, like
making
explain to
payments
me
on
how this
things.
works on Bitcoin, or is it separate?
It doesn't work on Bitcoin.
They
There,
have
Bitcoin
Bitcoin on there you can trade,
has
but it's separate.
DeFi, but there are some apps that actually work with with Bitcoin and DeFi, but this is separate. This is something that works like with all the other coins, but it pays returns. But the problem is, where are those returns coming from? And this is where I start worrying about things like pyramid schemes and stuff like that. I am not making accusations. I'm just saying, where does all the money come from?
Can you be
Because
specific in your question?
I've seen this before where, someone told me, and I'm not naming names here,
Right.
but someone tried to bring me into another project where there were these huge liquidity pools. Everybody's making money,
Right.
big liquidity pools. Put your money in, you're going to make a fortune, life changing money. And I was like, I don't know where that money is coming from. I don't know those people. I'm not putting any money in there. It turns out everybody was rolling over their money. Nobody could get their money out. And I said, that is a problem, but I did try to warn you,
Right.
right? That I don't think that's a problem. Like, so everybody lost their money. There was a huge battle.
Right.
I was like, this is so ugly. And this is the problem.
Right.
Some people at the beginning will be able to get their money out, but will everybody? Is it going to collapse? Where is this money? Now, it may be fine, right? But that's a huge payout from where?
So
It has to come
the,
from something. It's
there's a couple things you're asking here, and I'm not fully versed in Hyperliquid, but a lot of our whales do trade over there. 10 million, 100 million, 200 million, so on and so forth. From what I understand, they utilize the main price oracles of Chainlink, Pyth, and a few others, Coinbase, Binance, to mitigate price swings. And those liquidations are based on liquidation levels of an PVP, but also whatever the market maker may or may not run through the order book. It's a separate order book altogether. Hyperliquid, you got to go digging for it. It's not even available on our trading views, so we got to go manually find it. But they do their own thing. So we've seen some very, very large orders, cascade liquidations of 100 million, and that's just a few trades. So it's quite large. As far as they did do a fair drop, so they dropped all of their tokens to their community without an initial buy-in. So they had to go. They put a buying mechanism in their tokenomics. So their distribution was accumulation, which drove their price even higher and higher, higher quickly, because the community had that sentiment like, oh, they're with us. Our trading fees are going to them, but they're buying the token with it, which is great. They also have a lot of incentives for specifically strategic partnerships. I don't know this, so this is just the information I have, so I don't know if that's helpful at all. Yeah.
I mean, it's great if it works, but then if you've got these massive orders, you should be seeing massive drops. Like there should be huge, huge swings
Right.
in the prices
I know,
for
but
all of
like
these
that
things.
doesn't help, dude.
Right.
Zach, that doesn't help. Like the sound money is Bitcoin, and you are distracting
They trade
people.
Bitcoin on raw Bitcoin on there. So
No, you're distracting people from the sound money.
Oh, he's explaining stuff. Wait,
she
we're
asked a
not going to
question.
get into that right here. But this was an interesting explanation.
Right.
And for those who aren't aware, the Chainlink and Pyth are different chains that have so they're basically using it sounds like they're probably using some arbitrage too. But they're basically using trading from these other chains. But the problem is that the things that they're using are probably thinly traded. And no, even if they aren't, 100 million on any coin really is going to make it do these hugely big rise and fall. We should see enormous action based on even one of these trades, and that are unexplained. Like, what the hell is that? Right? So we should hear other people talking about what the hell these orders are that are coming and going that your friends are making. And if we're not hearing that, then that's not good, right? That's like um, that's bad, right? Then that means that those orders are either not legitimately being posted, or something's going on in terms of the trade. Something is happening, but I personally am feeling something here. I let you on, um, but I'm feeling something not right there. Again, maybe it's just me, but I get a sketch feeling there. It's like a too good to be true kind of thing. They should not get these massive returns based on what? Based on what?
So, Alex, you believe in Bitcoin or no?
Of course I do. It's not a belief thing. I've actually, like, again, done another space explaining why it has value.
But there should. So, I also want to know, like, is there a way to like do other things with the Bitcoin?
Yeah, you can. I mean, you can do a WBTC, like you can wrap Bitcoin, but one of the biggest things that people do, essentially, is collateralize it. But I mean, that's mostly what I see with Bitcoin. But you can do some DeFi activities with it. You can do some trading activities with it. But most of what I see with Bitcoin is collateralizing it in some way, and then um, moving it into some, like, borrowing it for some other asset, and then doing a deal with that. It could even be like fiat, right? But collateralizing it for another asset and then doing a deal on that other asset. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel you. But why would you like steer people in the direction of derivatives as opposed to the asset of Bitcoin? If it
But I'm
is
not steering people in any direction. I'm explaining stuff. I think I'm explaining stuff. I hope I
no,
am.
no,
Look,
you are.
it is all about Bitcoin, Alex. I don't want to hear anything other than Bitcoin 24/7. I want Bitcoin orange screen. Apple finally understands they made an orange iPhone, Alex, okay? That's all we need is Bitcoin, all right?
I mean,
That's what I'm wondering. Like people have all these different things. Like why are we doing
Why
different
do we need
things if
dollars, Alex? It needs to be priced in Bitcoin.
yeah, hey, you say you can't live without money. I love you, but like show me how. Like show me how you can't live
so
without
You can't do
money.
smart contracts on
That's
Bitcoin.
fucking yeah, that's like the base. That's like 1990s fucking frog stomp, dude. That's like silver chair, frog stomp. You say you can live with money. I'd like to see you how you do it. But like Bitcoin is the money. If this is the new money, like why steer people away from it?
it's not designed to be money, actually. It's designed to be an asset. This is actually one of the biggest problems in the blockchain industry, is not understanding the difference between an asset and a currency, which is a fundamental difference. So it is an excellent asset. Assets have volatility, which is what we like about them, right? The price goes up, it can go down, or it pays you while you hold it. Those are assets. Currency is designed to stay within a band of value. That constancy is what we like about it, right? That's the whole point of it, is that you're not taking a risk in value in the transaction. You have only transactional risk. So if I buy a computer from you and I pay in currency, if I pay in dollars, all I have to worry about really is, does the computer work? Does it do what I need it to do? Is it yours? Like, or did you steal it? Like, that's what I have to worry about. And you have to worry about, do I have the money? Am I going to give it to you, et cetera. But if I pay in Apple stock, right, which is an asset, then I also have to worry about, well, what if I give you the Apple stock and the stock goes up? Then I paid too much. And you have to worry about, well, what if the stock goes down and then I paid too little? That additional level of asset risk, that means it's an asset, right? So that additional level of risk that I put on top of, not just is the computer what I want, but also, did what I paid for it, did I pay too much or too little? That is it going to go up or down? That risk is that I paid with an asset. Of course, you can pay for things. People mistake the exchange of a good for another good. They mistake that for what I paid with is a currency. No, you can pay for things with assets, of course, but if you are concerned that the thing that you paid with might go up in value later, and you might have paid too much, or it might go down in value and you pay too little, then you have an asset, not a currency. And that is what Bitcoin is designed to do. Most of the things designed in blockchain, especially stable coins, which is the closest thing to currency, stable coins are also designed poorly in most of blockchain, right? Fundamentally because they are not designed by anybody who has any understanding of economics and finance. They are designed by developers and people who don't really understand the difference between these things and what you need to design in order to create something that's a currency. They don't get that, and that is that is fundamentally a problem. So there is a way to design a stable coin that is functional, but it is way more complicated than the ones that we're seeing, right? The ones that we're seeing deny human nature. They don't take into account what you need to do to bring in actual currency. They're so simplistic. They're just they don't work. I wrote a book literally about this. I have a whole chapter on it.
I feel
There's
you.
like seven.
Do you
What?
think, no, I said I feel you. Do you think we need stable coins?
We need an alternative to the dollar that is not based on the dollar. We need an alternative because every economy in the world is based on the dollar. And that is a problem for many reasons. One is, if something happens to the dollar, every economy fails, and that's a disaster. I mean, it was a disaster when they were just linked in the Great Depression. Now they're all tied together because they're all actually backed by the dollar. And that is a huge disaster in the waiting. The other thing is, economies are not the same. So when you have an economy that has a whole different set of assets in it, like different resources, different things in it, it needs to experiment with what's going to work better for it than, the U.S. economy, which is the most common thing. Just like everybody follows, every founder tends to follow the YC model of, like, build an MVP and then get it out to market and like all these other things. That's really just a model for a SaaS product. It's not the way like blockchain products are built. It's not the way most companies should build their companies. It's really the way a SaaS company should be built, which is YC's expertise, right? But somehow we got confused and started building all these companies with the same damn model. So that's what happened with economies and the US. So all economies sort of fall in line now with the US economic model. And it's a bad idea because not everyone has the resources, the size, and the assets of the US. They should be doing their own thing and experimenting, but they can't, because if it doesn't work, there's nowhere for their resources to go. So we need a secondary safety net, right? So there's a place where if they try and it doesn't work, they can put their money, like everyone can put their money in a secondary safety net, another stable coin. And then the other thing is, if there's a competitor to the dollar, or a competitor to other fiat, then both of them will work better because I'm fundamentally a capitalist. So I believe in competition. And if there is a system, a financial system, a full financial system that is competing with citizens, with fiat for citizens' assets, saying, I'm going to give you this if you put your money in my system, and fiat says, oh crap, all the money is going there, we better do better, it'll be better for both systems, they will both function better. Monopolies are terrible for everyone. The monopolistic system, which is what fiat is now, the monopolistic system is fat. It is slow. It's prone to corruption and abuse. It is not a good system. It needs competition to function as effectively as possible and with the most benefit for both itself and for the people who use it. And the only way to do that is to give it a competitor. It doesn't work otherwise. So I think it's mandatory. The end.
I got a response. Quick question: what phase were you at for your project?
For which project?
The one you wanted to work on, Cardano.
I mean, I have a proposal.
Gotcha. Cool.
That's it.
Very cool.
I got a lot of projects that are like either at like white paper stage or spec stage or whatever. I'm like, which one? I got a bunch of them.
But
So
like, didn't Bitcoin already solve for this?
no, no, because Bitcoin, remember, is an asset. It really is designed essentially to accumulate value. It goes up, it's volatile. It goes up or down in price. It doesn't do that. It doesn't actually, it's not something that just serves as a store of value. It's an asset. It's not a currency. We need a currency. We need something that serves the purpose of fiat. Fiat is not designed to go up or down in value. We
I
don't
mean,
need,
I
we
mean, we
need
got
something.
Lightning,
I
dude.
trade
Like, that
forex,
shit
so
works
I'd
like
have to disagree.
fucking.
Lightning is basically trading pennies of Apple stock.
Mm.
That's what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah, we can move pennies, so I can buy coffee with Lightning.
But it's still parts of Apple stock. You still have to give up Apple stock for it. It's not the same thing.
Do you run
Lightning's a
Lightning
derivative. I'm
nodes?
out. It's an
No, no, I'm
L2.
saying like, do you run a Lightning node? Like, how
I
how do you
I
how
mean,
are you
I
gonna
have a
like
blue
deny
wallet. I
that?
have sats on there. I mean, I mean, it's still like, look, man, it's still Bitcoin. What do people like? People aren't like, that's the one of the big stories about Bitcoin. It doesn't move, right? People don't want to give it up. It
No,
doesn't
you're right.
circulate.
You're right. You're right. People do not want to sell the Bitcoin, and they just
It's
want.
not even sell. They don't
You're
want to
right.
trade it. They
You're
don't want
right.
to give it up. That's the whole thing. They want to accrue it. That's not, it's not moving, it's not circulating. The whole point of currency is that it must have a current, it must circulate. The power of fiat, the power of any currency, is in its circulation. The problem that we have right now with currency is the natural motion of currency goes from poor to wealthy, right? That's how it moves. It moves through a system from the poor to the rich. And that is how it's designed to move, right? It stops with the rich because the rich accumulate it. Why? Because that's what makes them rich. That's literally it, right? Wealth accumulates with the rich. If it accumulated with the poor, they would not be poor. They would be rich. It accumulates with the rich, right? So, really, the only big role aside from fire and police and, like those kind of
But
services, the
no,
big role that government would have
but
is just to
hey,
force.
the K-shaped economy does like that's not like applicable. That's not applicable to Bitcoin. I mean, like we have
No, no, it
Lightning, we
is
have
actually.
Layer One. It is
No,
K-shaped.
no, it is because no, this is not even, this is not about, that's the recovery. It's a K-shaped recovery, not economy. The economy itself, the one thing that you always need a government to do, because it must be government-based redistribution. There's no other way to do it. They've tried many different ways. The only thing you can do is have a government forced redistribution, right? to get the wealthy you have to force them to redistribute wealth into the economy. And then it goes down to the poor through the middle class and up to the wealthy again, right? So it's basically the spark that makes the economy circulate is to get the wealthy to release some wealth back into the economy. That's what you have to do. That is the main thing that the government has to do to make the economy move. And currency is the thing that has to keep moving. Currency has no utility if it doesn't move. There's no point in collecting currency because currency doesn't increase in value. Currency is used to buy assets and goods and services, right? So you buy, rent or mortgages or food or pay your bills. But the main thing that you do after all that is you buy assets. Money itself is useless unless you use it to buy assets. That's it. You buy things that are volatile so that you can increase in value. You want things that increase in value. The money itself, the currency, is not valuable because it doesn't increase in value, right? It stays relatively the same or it decreases if it's inflationary, right? So you don't want to hold on to a bunch of money. You want to put it into assets. The problem is those assets may not move back into the economy. So what you need to do is as a government, you need to force liquidation and get some currency moving back into the economy so that the poor can then, you know, put money in. And because if you're poor or middle class, you can't keep money in your hands. You cannot like try. Like it has to go out into bills and rent and crap like that. You can't keep it. You can try, but it won't work. It just flows out of your hands. But the wealthy have a choice. They have a choice. They can spend it or they can invest it. And they often choose to invest rather than spend. And the government needs to force them to spend. That's the only way to get economies moving. Did I
So
bore the
you
shit out
so
of
you
you
mean the
guys yet?
market maker has to force liquidations to stimulate liquidity?
Exactly. Exactly. They have to. And there's no one else to do it, right? No one else has the power to force a liquidation. And usually what they do is by saying things like the philanthropy things and the tax exemption and then the generation skipping tax and things like that. They use incentives, right? Both carrots and sticks in order to force spending, right? So philanthropy doesn't
Yeah,
happen just because there's good nature.
like UBI, right?
Well, that's different. This is forcing, like you'll say, look, I will give you a massive tax deduction if you will spend X amount of money in philanthropy, and you get a deduction for that philanthropy itself. So you get twice the deduction if you do that. And they'll say, okay, and so that forces more money in circulation. It's basically giving an NGO, which has no ability to keep that money. It has to flow back out. They put the money into an NGO, which forces that money to flow back out into the economy. It's another way to force the money to flow back out. Or they say, you have to pay, if you want to hold that much money, you must pay a tax on it. And the tax is due in, here, or you can spend this much money and you won't have to pay it. Well, then they force a spend, and that makes the money flow back into the economy. Or you can spend, if you spend this much money, if you buy this thing, you get a deduction like the car deduction, right? Like the 6,000 pound car deduction, right? So they buy a bigger car, but they get a deduction through it because they buy it through their business. They
Yeah, that was
buy,
such a scam. Go on, sorry.
but that's kind of what they do is they force more money being spent in the economy. Those are all things that force liquidation. Like they force money being spent in the economy in order to get money flowing. The whole thing is how can we force them to spend money rather than lock all of that up in an asset that doesn't actually generate any spend that doesn't make that money flow. right? And the biggest problem that we have now is because one of the spends was that they had a very high tax rate. And that got money into the economy by paying it to the government, who then let it flow back out through programs. But what ended up happening is Reagan changed that into a debt program. So that's one of the reasons why we ended up with so much debt, is that what he did is converted tax payments from the wealthy, when they were paying like, up to 91% tax. Instead of doing that, they have now 36% tax, but they loan the government money, but that also means they get an interest rate payment back, and that loan payment is not considered income. So there's no that's not considered revenue, right? So they if they do it, especially if they do it through their companies, it's not considered revenue, and they get payments back on it. It's a huge win for them. So not only do they get to control the government, they get paid for it, and they don't have to pay tax on it. It's a massive win. So that is a way that not only do they get to keep a bunch of money, it's not flowing in the economy anymore. None of it goes to the government, who can then force it back out. On the contrary, it's forced back to the wealthy. All of that money gets stuck with the wealthy. That's why trickle down economics doesn't work. That's why supply side economics doesn't work, because all that happened is it just got stuck with the wealthy, and it doesn't circulate again. And that's how we are where we are right now, under a lot of debt, and very little money circulating
Well,
through the
you're right.
economy.
Hey, Alex, you are correct. Trickle down economics does not work. And that's what they taught us. That's what they taught. That's what they educated my generation on. If you took Econ 101, they'd be like, hey, it's going to be trickle down economics. And like, if we print more money, it's just going to like go down to the other people. So what are you saying DeFi or some other token is going to solve that problem?
I'm not
How
saying I'm not saying any token is going to solve that problem.
would
I'm that's a completely different conversation. So I'm saying that this
no,
is
I
an
know.
economic
We
issue.
talked about a lot of stuff. I know. We
Yeah,
we're like hopping around.
this is an economic model that doesn't work. Our current economic model doesn't work. It has to change, particularly given AI. Um, but uh, but what I am saying about stable coins is we need an alternate economic system that is going to back up the world's economies, right? So we need one or more alternative economic systems, so that the world, like all the world's economies that are now backed by the US dollar, don't have to rely on the constant health of the US dollar, or or back it up uh, at their own expense. So I don't know if you guys know that this happens, but
That's
like the last
bold.
time, what?
I said that's bold. You're
Well, they
saying
do
we
right
need
now.
some.
So like the BIS is basically the arm of it's, which is a UN agency or an IFI, International Financial Institution, but they essentially speak on behalf of the dollar. And the last time, so in, I guess it was must have been like 2022, I guess, the last time that we heard from them, they were basically saying, don't sell any of your dollar reserves, even if your own currency is lagging. Don't, not even to support your own economy. Don't sell your dollar reserves, which is basically saying, even if your people are starving and you need to shore up your own economy so people can buy food, let them starve and let your economy tank in order to save the dollar, which I think is abominable. I cannot believe that that is what it was advocating. But that is right now, essentially, the party line is tank your own economy, even though you know you can't afford it, in order to save the dollar. That should never, 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 never be a party line of anybody, right? That should never be the message that any single currency is worth a country's citizenry when there's a financial crisis, right? That's why we need to have secondary currency, because we need to have something where if something's faltering, there's another one saying, okay, if you need to back up your currency or you need a safety net, use this other safety net, right? Use another safety net. Because, Bitcoin, even then, right, could fall 30, 40%. Citizens couldn't afford 30 to 40% drop, right? They can't afford that. So you can't tell people that, oh, well, you're going to drop that much in value. If it's just an asset, well, it's an asset. It is what it is. But if it's your currency, if it's your net worth right now of how much you can afford to buy in food, then you have to say, okay, take your cash and go to this other currency that will have at least equal value in cash. Save your money now. Don't go spend all your cash in milk right now. That's going to go bad, right? But you have to go buy it right now because tomorrow it'll be worth, you'll be able to buy less. And then the next day you're going to be able to buy less. And the next day you're going to be able to buy less. Like, they can't save money because the value of their money is dropping by the hour. So they have to go and buy perishables that are not going to last, and they can't add value, right? So they have to have a place that they can store their money. And they're using things like Bitcoin. Right now it's kind of the best sort of index of disposable income for the middle class that we have across the world, right? But one of the reasons it fluctuates so much is that people can liquidate it as quickly as possible because they use it kind of like a bank account in a lot of ways. And that's not really what it's best suited for, because people are losing money that way. That's not really what it's designed for. They need
Why
something.
why is having liquidity like a bad thing? Like if I can
It's not the
liquidate,
liquidity that's a problem. It's the fact that it's an asset. It's not designed to keep its value steady. So it goes up and down in price, and they lose the value of the asset because they're dumping it when they have to, not because they want to necessarily, but they need the liquidity, right? So it's that they need something else also. So don't get me wrong. I love the fact that there's something that is priced regardless of where you live and can't be discriminated, not on any border or anything like that. But I do think that we also need something that is constant, that doesn't actually depend on that isn't dropping because some people need to liquidate because there's a crisis in one country, and so the value is liquidating and a bunch of people arbitrage the hell out of it, and so now it's lower everywhere. Like, that is not something that people need their life savings or their ability to buy milk dependent on. That's what a currency is for. And it's a very useful thing to have. They're both valuable. And I don't think people should lose the value that they have in Bitcoin. I don't think they should lose asset value, um, because they just need some liquidity right now. They should be able to have something else that grants some liquidity right now. People now in the US have, a bank account and Bitcoin. Why doesn't everybody get that? Right?
hell
You should
yeah.
be able to get you should be able to get something that gives you constant liquidity and Bitcoin. That's what a stable coin ideally will be able to do, or more, like more than one stable coin, but it shouldn't be dollar dependent, shouldn't be fiat dependent.
But like
So
really
that's
like the volatility of the dollar, like the US dollar, is it really that stable? Like if you look across like the United States, like it's not that stable. Like
no,
the
it's very stable. We're at
no the
2.7%.
oh
No, we're
really?
2.7%. No, 2.7% inflation. Some countries are at, 50 to 70%. Some have been at 300% inflation.
Oh, relative.
If you're
Yeah,
if you have a
relativity.
f-
Yes. Okay.
Well, I mean, yeah. So for people from other countries, they look at at the dollar and they're just like, you guys don't know what it's like to have currency that is, a fluctuating currency. You don't know what it's like, and it's true. We've been very very lucky with our currency. We've only had very rare periods of fluctuation. So
I've traded
Like,
forex and crypto and gold for a long time, so it's a very different conversation with me.
very different, very
Yeah, so I get
different.
to
I
see
don't
I
know
get to
anything
see
about
when they
forex
run a
and like,
when
look,
they run a
hey,
camp
hey,
when they
hey.
run a campaign to like make people scared to go to Mexico, and it's like there goes the peso, you know.
Oh man,
What?
I don't know if you remember the 94 peso was just like tank.
Yep.
I
Like,
mean, that's cool and everything. Like, that's really cool. Like, that's really cool. Like, we're the best fucking horse in the fucking soap shop or whatever. What do they do with horsehair? I don't care. But like, you can't deny the fact that like inflation is not two. What did you say? 2.3 or 3.3 or
2.7,
3 point? Yeah,
2.7.
whatever. That is actually laughable in my opinion because I see what's happening around me on a daily basis, on a yearly basis, and the inflation rate is not 2 or
No, no, no. It's
3%.
that's the prices are going up. That's different. Our prices are increasing rapidly. That's different than our inflation rate, right? So if you look at the PPI and the CPI, those have been increasing. And a lot of that that's actually a lot of different reasons and I cover it in my Substack. But there's a lot on why those things are. A lot of it is, the tariffs and other things, but that's different. You're seeing huge price differentials. The new PPI, I think, just came out. I'm trying to actually find it, and
Yeah, I mean, they don't even
and
count
that's a
steak anymore. It's just like ground beef instead of steak. It's like I can't even like they don't even count in like a cut of steak, like a cut of ground like now it's ground beef. Like that's not part of the CPI anymore. Or am I wrong?
no, it's no, it's not. They count the same things over and over again. It's just that the price is actually just quite high. And so the PPI is the producer price index, and that is the wholesaler's price for what they pay to bring things in and then resell it. And then the consumer price index is the same basket of goods, and it has to be consistent in terms of what they purchase in order to be able to tell from year to year and quarter to quarter what people are paying in order to buy a basket of goods, right? The same basket of goods. Do you pay $100, $103, 105, whatever it is?
So
So we've seen that it's
you agree with the basket of goods? It's been consistent because I'm hearing that it's not been
I will look and
consistent.
see if they've changed if the CPI basket of goods has changed. Hold on. Let's see. I don't think it's changed recently. I mean, it changes in order to make it an accurate reflection of what people buy. Like, if people aren't buying like a ton of Jello or whatever, which I think honestly was in there in the 60s, but I don't know that it's
That's so
changed.
funny about Jello. By the way, side
Uh,
note, all fucking sincerity aside, like I just threw out some Jello that was like way too old. It was from
yeah,
somebody
I
else.
mean, I don't know if it expires or not, but I think the
It
last
looked weird.
change,
It started turning liquid.
that's gross.
By the way,
The
you're cool.
last change was in 2023. They changed it to incorporate neighborhood specific data on neighborhood types. That's basically it. So no, not otherwise. That's really it, like the level of neighborhood data. But otherwise, no, the CPI itself is pretty constant. So, uh, hey Dre, I haven't seen you in ages. Good to see you. If you want to come up or anything, but we've covered a billion topics in here. But that was the economic report that was you know, a long overdue one, I guess, but I talk about that every Tuesday. So if you're ever interested in hearing more about economics, um, you know, come to my economic space. I'm giving away a Substack thing for Peter Yang. Um,
Hey, thanks for letting me talk. I'll see you guys later.
no, of course. It was great hearing from you.
Hell yeah. Let's go, Bitcoin.
Hey. Hey,
Peace.
Dre. Did you come here for Charlie Kirk or in free speech, or are you no the suspect apparently, by the way, not caught. Suspect free.
Yeah, I did. First of all, I never heard of who Charlie Kirk was until today. Um, and now that I'm seeing all of this, I'm scouring the internet, and he looks like somebody that I probably would not have agreed with. But however, this thing is just absolutely disgusting. How,
Yeah.
I just can't believe where we're at. And I can't believe that this happened in Utah. I wouldn't be surprised if it was in other areas, but in Utah, of all places, one of the more safer places, in my opinion. It's just sad. So I'm not sure where you guys are at, but I jumped in because I saw the title. I'm getting ready for very big deal, Alex. One of my companies, my portfolio companies, is going public tomorrow.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, I know,
Wow,
right?
an exit. That's
Yeah,
exciting.
my first one. Does this really count as an exit? I thought an exit is when they actually sell to somebody, but you
No, an
know,
exit's when you go when anytime you get to exit in your shares, you that is an exit. So when you
I'm
are
I'm
you
not gonna
selling?
exit my shares. No, no, I think it's gonna get even bigger, so I'm gonna hold on to my shares.
Oh,
You know,
okay.
but
But you could
yeah,
publicly trade your shares though, right?
yep, I could starting tomorrow.
Oh
I
my
could.
gosh. Do you want to talk about the company or not?
It's a
Technically quiet period though, so because
yeah.
it's right
I don't
before
want
the
to talk about
IPO.
that. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that now. I was just getting ready for that, and
Congratulations.
yeah, thank
That's
you, appreciate
awesome.
it.
That's amazing. I'm so happy for you.
Yeah, I'm only gonna make like 20 cents off of it, but who knows? We'll see.
Amen, brother.
I
We'll see
told you
what
guys,
happens.
accredited investor. That is why you want to be an accredited investor. See, you invest in a company when it is private, then it goes public, and that's how you make money.
You make all the money.
But that is
Yeah,
exciting.
yep,
But
yep, yep.
that's awesome. That's really exciting for you. I'm really happy for you. I mean, an acquisition is another way to exit,
Mhm.
but this is a good one. So that's exciting for you.
Yeah, yeah. For some reason I don't. Every time I feel like sharing some good news, some crazy stuff like this happens. I mean, there's always something crazy that I better not post because I was gonna post something, and I'm like, I'm not posting anything. This sucks. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know who this guy is, but you
Well,
know,
this is yeah. So he's a really interesting person. Well, he was. Unfortunately, this actually killed him. But he was only 31, which is so young. Um, he was a conservative speaker who started when he was 18. He started this organization, and with you. I didn't agree with him, but I don't agree with most people, so that doesn't really mean anything. But he started this organization called Turning Point on a campus when he was 18 years old because he felt like not enough conservative people came to his campus to speak. So he organized this group of people to bring conservative speakers to his campus, and now it's on like a crap ton of campuses. It's this huge organization that just brings conservative speakers to campuses, and he's like a major political figure. So, what he's done by itself is pretty remarkable. That is grassroots planning by itself. I mean, if you imagine him as a Democrat, like let's say you are not a conservative, right? You're a liberal. But imagine what he's done as a liberal. Like, let's say he thought there were not enough liberal people coming to campus, and he organized this group of people to bring more liberal speakers to campus. And then that organization grew to all of these like hundreds of campuses. And he became someone who advises the president, and he's 31 years old. That is a remarkable achievement. It doesn't matter if you agree with him or not. He has a set of beliefs that he just became a grassroots founder. Like, this is like along the same lines of what Obama did before he went into politics and law, right? No, it was before law school or after law school. I'm not sure, but when he was a community organizer, you have a set of beliefs and you act on it. And that's what he did. And I respect that grind, because that's all it was just grind. And then somebody, when he went to speak on campus at Utah, somebody shot him and ran off. And they thought they had the suspect, and that suspect was set free. So now that suspect is at large. Originally, they thought they had a suspect, but it turns out that was one of the organizers of the event. And what's really interesting has been that I looked at lots of different, like I looked at Blue Sky, I looked at Threads, I looked at Facebook, and several of them have had nothing to say about this. And this app has tons to say on it. And so what it really just shows me is, and then, the regular media on both sides, right, has a lot to say about it. So what it really shows me is how much algorithms really give you uh, your news, right? So don't rely on social media for your news, because it is so driven by algorithms that you are missing everything else. You are not seeing anything about the rest of the world, whatever your viewpoint is. You are only seeing what the algorithm thinks you are already going to agree with and like. It is not giving you anything else, because I'm shocked that there's like nothing on these other apps, even though this is big news in general, because he's a key political figure that's close to the president. The president has said statements about it. The president's statements usually make all sorts of social media, whatever the leaning of the president. But it is surprising to me, basically, that whatever an algorithm feeds you is what you're going to think is the big topic of the day. And even here, right, there's a whole chunk of X that has nothing to say about this, but you're not going to see that if you're not keyed into that part. So please don't think that your bubble is the only thing that's happening in the world. It's easy to mistake your bubble as the only thing in the world when you're in social media, because it feels like that's all that's out there, but it's not. Make sure you check out, put in a search term in spaces so you come up with new spaces in different hosts. Make sure you check out other apps just so you see what other parts of the world are looking at, like other parts of the world, even in like your country, your neighborhood, right? They're looking at different things. They're not focused on the same things that you are. And look at regular media for news stories. Look at both sides, because you can't get a full picture of what's going on until you see what is happening, right? And the other thing is, we already talked about a lot of what free speech is, because a lot of people are claiming, that this was an act against free speech or whatever, and this has nothing to do with free speech. Both sides have condemned this shooting, but we talked a little bit about, like, does there a gun problem or whatever? I don't even think it's guns. There's so much rage in this country. There's isolation and rage, and people who are disconnected from communities and disconnected from one another, and a lack of conflict resolution skills. Like, we don't know how to solve problems with one another. We don't know how to disagree with one another. There's like ghosting all over. And then I can only express anger if I'm hidden, right? If I'm an anonymous comment, or if I'm well protected in some way, if I'm on a VPN somewhere and nobody knows who I am, but I can't directly express myself to someone, because I'm afraid of the repercussions. And the problem is, after 30, 40 years of that kind of life, you end up a really, really angry person, who is just like a time bomb waiting to get set off. So I think we've just got a bunch of really angry, frustrated people who don't know how to like tell
Yeah,
people I have an issue and then move on.
yeah, it's still a gun problem. I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, but just imagine, you know, being completely angry at somebody and completely losing yourself to the point where you want to pick up a gun and shoot somebody. But you know what? If you didn't have the gun in the first place, then you wouldn't be in a position to shoot someone. Back in the day, you would punch the wall or punch somebody or whatever. You know what I mean? But you wouldn't have this weapon that's there to, regardless of whether you have mental issues or not, you wouldn't have, if you don't have access to this weapon, that can avoid a lot of stuff. We have a major, major, major gun problem, and to be honest, this goes beyond just, I have no idea who this guy is, who's sure how he got the pistol, but I'm from the south side of Chicago, and most of the burners out here are illegal anyway. You know what I mean? So even reform wouldn't help the situation here, but the fact that these streets are being flooded with guns, illegally, and then the ones that you can actually get legally and register and license to carry. I literally just this 3 days ago here in my city, a lady shot and killed another lady, and pretty much stood there like she didn't do anything wrong. And her excuse was, "Hey, I felt threatened and I have a license to carry," even though her license to carry is in Wisconsin, and she was here stalking a girl who had a restraining order on her. They got into an altercation, and while the guy was there trying to, I guess the story that I'm getting is trying to break it up, he restrained one of the girls, had her in a headlock. The other girl, who was not supposed to be in the first place, went to her car, grabbed her gun that she had access to, shot this woman in the face. We have it's an absolute gun problem, and I don't know how to fix it, but that's what it is. I
See,
don't care about all this mental illness stuff that everybody wants to throw around the minute
I
somebody
didn't
loses
say
it
it
and
was
goes and shoots
mental
somebody.
illness. I mean, we
No, no, I'm
definitely
saying,
have
but
that.
that's an
Yeah,
excuse. That's an excuse
but
that a
yeah,
lot of people use anytime this happens, and I'm sick of that. We
yeah,
have a
I'm not,
problem,
I
a gun
mean,
problem.
we have that, but a lot of the mentally ill are just homeless, and that's a whole other issue, but they're not killing each other, right? That's not really the issue there either. The people who are killing each other and getting access to guns are angry, and that is angry and frustrated, and they don't feel heard. Like the people who are killing each other, who are killing kids in schools, they're angry. The people who are killing, that incident you just talked about, someone is angry, like, and they don't have impulse control, right? We have a problem with this buildup of frustration, a lack of conflict resolution skills and impulse control. And this is because we're not dealing with each other well anymore. We have lost the ability to deal with one another as individuals. And I think part of it is that we have more people than we've ever had before, right? And this is one of the things I mentioned is trying to become famous during like Shakespeare's time, right? Much easier than it is now because the number of people in Elizabethan England significantly less than the number of people in England now, right? The number of people is extremely high, and trying to be heard, especially in the US, which has is an extremely big population, that trying to be heard or seen is very hard. And we have no real tradition of community. We don't have a concept of community in the US. That's what happens when you have a very individualistic society. You don't have a concept of community. When you have a predominantly immigrant population, which is what the US is, we are a predominantly immigrant population because we all came here from somewhere, and we don't have a community history. We're not like Japan, right? where everybody basically has this long-standing community tradition. We don't believe in, family before self or community before self. We believe in self before everybody. And that is partly how we settled this country, but partly that is what is destroying this country right now. We need to teach civility because we're not learning it anywhere else. So we need to actually teach civility. How do you solve problems with other people? How do you resolve conflict with other people? How do you handle feeling bad, right? How do you solve bad feelings? People don't even know how to handle bad feelings. We're not even taught that. Like, we're taught how to distract ourselves from bad feelings, but we're not taught how to handle bad feelings. We're taught how to drink, smoke, drug, sex, overeat our
I just
problems
buy
away, but
Cardano. It
we're
makes me
not
feel better.
actually taught.
Because I'm not the only
We're
one
not
that's low,
actually
you know?
taught how to. we're not we're You're not helping. We're not taught how to handle bad feelings. We're not taught how to handle stress. We're not taught how to handle somebody who's feeling those things and trying to offload them to us. We're not taught how to handle someone else's stress. We're only taught how to look as though we're handling everything ourselves. We're not taught how to be vulnerable or how to handle vulnerability in others. And that makes us a tense and angry group of people. And that is now a problem. The weapons, it doesn't matter. We could have any weapons. We're killing each other all the time. Yes, we kill each other a lot with guns. We kill each other with knives. We kill each other by beating each other up. But the problem is we're angry all the time. We are angry all the time. That is what we're fighting about all the time. We're not even listening to each other because all we want is to be heard because we're so fucking angry all the time. And we just want to be heard. Like, can somebody notice me? We're terrified of not being heard and not being seen and dying that way. And that's why there's this rush to fame. Everybody wants to be famous and stealing and taking credit for other people's stuff and all this other garbage because we're terrified of never being known. Like, this whole planet existed before us and will exist after us. And what's the point of us being here? We're like in this constant state of existential angst that we can't address because, God forbid, somebody see us be weak. And that is not a good thing. So we have to teach, like, how to be a society again. I think we've all forgotten it. Like, somehow in the last few generations, with the exploding population, and something happening in our communities, we have lost the ability to relate to one another in a way that we can be comfortable in one another's presence. It's like we lost the ability to have to have, like, personal space invasions, right? You have to learn how to be comfortable in someone else's personal space to have a relationship with them. We lost that. It's not just COVID, right? COVID broke down a lot of that. Like, I remember when my kid, who was 2, when COVID started, when we developed a pod finally so that she had her little friends to play with again, by the time they started playing, they literally just stood next to each other. They had no idea how to play. They completely forgot. And we had to kind of, like, sort of shove them together and show them what to do because they forgot how to play. We all forgot how to play. We forgot how to be together and play and have conflict and forgive each other and move on. We're just scared of each other. And we hate that we're scared of each other and we hate each other. And that's just not a way to live. So I think, like, we need a class on how to be together so we can, like each other again. Anyway.
Wait, what do you mean again?
I never stopped liking you people.
What do you
I'm
mean by
glad.
you
You,
people? What do you mean by you
you
people?
internet friends. What you mean, you people? Gotcha. No, I was raised evangelical Christian. I'm sorry. I was raised hardcore Roman Catholic. So one of them told us we're all going to hell. Put the money in the bucket. And the other one said, love all people, no matter what, unconditionally the way God loves you. And I kind of kept that into my adulthood. I got rid of a lot of the stuff that wasn't working, but most of the stuff is pretty by like just genuinely care about people in the world because obviously, it makes the world better. So I try.
I don't know. I think like I think about the way people drive. Because I'm in LA and I'm watching people drive a lot. And one of the things I think about a lot is how people screw up a lot when they drive. And one of the things that seems to happen is that people screw up a lot when they drive, but when someone else screws up, they swear a lot at someone else. Because we assume that when we screw up, it's a mistake, but when someone else screws up, it's a flaw in character. Like, that is how we interpret the world. We don't give anyone the grace we give ourselves. And sometimes we don't give ourselves any grace either. And but I look around and I just see how many people uh are so mean to each other, right? Like, this person is driving this way and they're doing it deliberately. And it's like, you don't even enter their realm of thought. Like, whatever they're doing, I guarantee it has nothing to do with you. And this is how most of the things that interfere with our daily happiness or lives that are caused by other people really occur. They have no real thought about you. They're doing their own thing. They just happen, their bubble of world happens to bounce off of ours. And that's really what's happening. If we said, hey, that just interfered, with my world, they would probably say, oops, sorry. But instead, our tendency is to start yelling at them and saying, you horrible evil person, you're such a bitch, like, how could you possibly do that? And then and that's how it
Who
devolves
do we
from
yell at
there.
when it's a Waymo?
I have seen people yell at Waymos. I've seen people honk at Waymos.
They're the worst
Honestly, it's kind of
drivers.
like but I honestly I feel like maybe that's
Yeah,
therapeutic.
the machine.
Like, maybe that's what people should do, is
Have you
because
seen them in Glendale at the parking lot where they all honk at each other and they just honk?
I never
Well,
go
there's
to
a video
Glendale,
online where
baby.
all of them just honk. They just keep honking at each other. No, they're not self-aware of each other, so they just keep honking. Yeah,
Oh, really? Oh, the
yeah. The Waymos
Waymos
honk at
honk?
each other
That's
when they're in
pretty
their
funny. I
parking
didn't
lot
know
trying to
they
get
did.
recharged for the night. But like they just honk and honk and honk and honk because they're not self-aware of each other. There's no program talking to each other. So the
Oh,
people in
that's really
Glendale, it's in the
funny.
middle of an apartment complex, a four apartment building. They all just get really angry every night. It's funny as fuck. Sorry.
That's very dystopian. That's really funny. Anyway, I don't know. It's just something to think about, I guess. But I mean, I do think that there's some future out there where, some skills, just like I tell everybody that you need to learn finance and economics, I do think that there's some room to learn more about
Up top.
civility. Just like how people, like, I remember this. I was teaching something at UCLA, and I walked by this room and it was set up like for a formal dinner. And I was like, oh, what's the dinner here? And they're like, oh, well, we're teaching these Gen Z kids how to eat at a formal dinner. And I was like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, they don't know anything about like formal etiquette. So we're teaching them how to eat, how to like etiquette for formal dinners. And I thought that was hysterical because my mom taught me all that stuff, like, the whole, like, the crab fork and all that other stuff. And this is or lobster fork or whatever the hell it is. Anyway, so all that's that, like, we had all of that so that we would always know, like, a formal dinner. But it was just very funny that was, I was like, they don't know any of this stuff. And so they had to teach, like, how to sit, eat, and present yourself at a formal dinner. And I thought, well, that's why I go back to that, and I like, that's what we need. We need, like, that for people to relate to one another. Here is how you conduct yourself with other people. Here is how, here is how you engage in conflict resolution. Here is how you disagree with someone and maintain the relationship afterwards. here is how you if you accidentally step on someone's foot, here is what you do. Here is how, here's how you share space with someone. Here's, if you're frustrated, here's how you air it out. If you're with someone who is very anxious or angry, here is how you listen to someone, right? You don't take on their feelings or their problems. Here's how you do that. Go ahead, Dre.
Yeah, that's I'm with you except for the stepping on shoes. Do not step on my shoes, or we're gonna have a serious problem. I'm not sure if you have a better way of resolving it, but I'm probably gonna put my hands on you if you
You
step on my
don't
shoes.
have to actually step on someone's shoe, man. I'm assuming there's some, base level of imagination here. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But I'm guessing. I'm
You
guessing. I
step
don't
on a
know.
man's brand new
But
white Nikes. Those some fighting words.
man, I remember when my shoes were white. You know what's so funny? What do you guys actually work out in, by the way? Like, what do you guys have sneakers for? So my sneakers are for working out. What are you guys using your sneakers for?
I'm always
Cutting
Do you work
yeah,
out?
trees,
I'm all,
cutting
What?
trees in my
I
cutting trees in my
I
yard.
got runners, so I'm always on a walk.
No. But I mean, I thought you collected sneakers, Dre.
No, I do not. Who told you that?
What do you mean, you people?
Oh,
No, no, I got
Lord.
no. I have maybe 15 at the most pair of shoes total, and that's including sneakers and dress shoes. I don't collect shoes like that, but I try to keep the one. That's why if you step on my shoes, I'm gonna be mad because I try to keep them as long as possible, so I don't have to buy any more. I want them to look new and look good. You understand what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying. I don't know. My shoes, I don't know. I mean, I keep my nice shoes nice, but my sneakers look like crap because I use them. I don't know. I don't care about it that much, but I
I
should,
have
I
to care
guess.
because
I
it's
don't know.
impossible to find size 15 and a half. So I'm
15 and
six
a
foot five.
half?
Yes,
You're lying. 15
yes.
and a half.
Man, stop lying. Ain't no ladies in here,
I'm
man.
not
Stop
lying.
trying
You
to
guys
pander to
know.
the.
Hey!
Wow,
Dre!
that's funny.
You suck.
Pretty funny.
Man, my dog could like use your shoe as a
My aunt,
canoe.
I was sitting next to my aunt, and she has a pool. I was sitting next to my aunt, and she, like, I had my shoes off, and she measured her finger to my index toe. She's like, "You could give me your toe for my pinky if I needed it." I was like, "How about no?"
Oh my God. You're a
Yeah,
giant.
life at 6'5". What
Man,
do you want?
holy crap. Is your whole
Nope,
family
I'm the biggest one
huge?
in my entire lineage. The only one close to me was my dad and my brother at 6 foot, but I got another 5 inches somewhere.
Oh, somebody owes you a birthday card
Yep,
too. Oh,
yep.
damn. Oh, you got a mailman or
Milkman, mailman,
something?
something like that.
Somebody owes you a birthday card and a bunch of old
Mm-hmm.
money. Damn. Woo. Holy cow. Yeah, I got a really short family and then there's me. I'm taller. I'm much taller than the rest of my family, but so I'm like, somebody owes me
Oh
birthday
yeah.
money.
My feet
But
aren't
I'm
that
never
big.
doing like 20. What?
My feet aren't that big, but believe me, I'm straight where it counts. So there you go.
Ha ha. Yeah, whatever.
And for any ladies that's in here,
Good lord.
What the hell?
She's a
I'm a
lady.
woman. I'm a
yeah,
lady, damn it. I'm
not
a
you.
woman. I
Yeah,
ain't no lady.
you've crossed the line. You know, I no longer look at you as I
You're
never
not a
looked at you
lady.
like
You
that actually,
family.
but you know,
What?
yeah. No, I never.
What?
You know what do you want
I
me to
am
say?
offended. I take offense.
Well, you are a woman. You're not a lady. I
my
mean,
my
we could call you
feminine
a lady,
heart.
but that's like older. You're not older.
I have
Okay.
offense. Whatever. I'm married. I don't
What would that
care.
make you? What the what the
Yeah, what would that
okay,
make
so
me,
like
man?
there's in proper
What are you
English
making
there's a
me?
girl, there's a young girl, there's a young lady, there's a lady. Then there's a woman and I would you be madam? No, that's not right. Madam? No. What would you a matron? Are you a matron?
Oh,
See?
screw
You're not a
that.
ma'am because somebody's gonna get popped
That's
if they call you
shelf
a
boob.
ma'am.
I don't
A
have shelf
Mrs.
boob.
You're a Mrs. Or a Ms.
I'm a Mrs.
Yeah, you're Mrs.
Yes, I am.
There we go. Figured it out.
A crypto missus. That's what she is. She's a crypto missus.
Well, that's not a good name to
Whatever.
have. She misses her crypto. The crypto misses.
No, but whatever. Screw you guys. I matter. Damn it. And I don't have a shelf
A
boob.
shelf?
That sucks.
What did you
You
say?
guys are mean.
What's a
Shelf boob. That's what matrons have. They
Did you
got that
say
shelf
shelf
boob,
boob?
uniboob that goes all the way. Yeah, you know
No.
what I'm talking about?
Go
No,
on.
That
no.
shelf boob. That boob that goes all the way across, like
Oh,
uniboob,
you mean
that goes all the way
you mean
across. It's
that
like a
the old
shelf.
Victorian ladies where it's like, what do you bring to the table? I am the table.
No, the matrons, man. They're like, like they're the moms, the old moms that got like, and then sometimes they wear a low cut thing, but it's still one big boob, but it just has like a line in
Uniboob.
the middle. If there's uniboob. It's like one big
What
old
the fuck
boob,
is
but if
going
they
on?
don't have a bra, it goes all the way down. Do you
Yes.
know what I'm talking about? They're
Oh my
like,
god. They have a
they
new one
like,
for the butt. It's
they're
called a
big
flat
old
back.
boobs.
Well, there was a picture of my backside in one of our groups one time when we were at an event, and he goes, "You got that long back." I was like, "That's so mean." All back, no ass.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
screaming.
So I have been working out a lot for the past, I don't
Mm-hmm.
know, like year. And one of the things that my trainer is always saying is like you have you we are working, one of the things we've been working really hard on is to end my white girl butt. So she's just constantly like, ah, look, yay, because I
Right.
had white girl butt. So she's like, yay, you don't have a white girl butt anymore, because white girl butt is
Yes.
a problem. Apparently.
It is.
And it has a solution. And it is these evil crunches that you have to do. They're so painful, but you have to do these. But she's like, because white girl butt should not exist.
Uh-huh.
White girl butt
Uh-huh.
is a problem, and these are the solution. Yeah,
The
they're
the
horrible. You have to like
Bulgarian
hold a
squats or
weight and
whatever.
stuff.
Yeah.
No, it's not just like I do like all sorts of squats and stuff, but like no, this is like a one particular machine that is trying very hard to kill me through
There you
my
go.
butt. It's really horrible. But I survive each time. And yes, and she's very proud of
Nice.
my butt. I've never had a woman be
Good.
so proud of my butt, but you know what?
All
That's my
right.
life right now. There you go. So,
Interesting.
I
I
have a
must
very
meet
yeah.
this
heavy set
lady.
family, and all of us suffer from no acetol.
No.
Yeah.
That's my family's Latina, so I was the only one with the sad white girl butt, as far as I could tell. But yeah, so now I fit in better, so that's good. But anyway, there you go. That's my life
Okay.
right now. But that's fun. So I don't have uniboob, and I do have no
That's
white
funny as
girl
fuck.
butt.
I must meet one of these Uniboob
Yeah.
ladies you're talking about.
She's the one you ignore.
You will find them at a lot of weddings. They're at a
Oh
lot of
my god.
weddings. You'll always see them at weddings. You know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about, right? They're always in the sparkly
Oh yeah.
dresses.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about. Logic was here and hanging out, and then I think we scared him off
Who?
with the white girl butt. But anyway,
Oh,
Logic,
gotcha.
you know Logic.
All right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm actually going to log off too, but I
I got
want
it.
to
I
check
know. I
in.
got to go. My family's here, and they need dinner, so I got to get going. This was a fun convo, though.
Yeah, tell everybody I said what's up. I'll catch up with you later. I'll be out there for Tech Week. I'm not sure what days, but I'll be
All
out
right.
there.
Well, let me know. I'll
Yep.
see you then.
All right.
Take care,
Cheers.
guys. I will see all the subscribers on Friday, and I will see you guys on Tuesday for the econ and market space. Take
All right.
care.
Bye, guys.
Bye.